Hello, everybody, and welcome to Debate Dissection, where we will be, quite frankly, taking apart this debate for the third time. Yes, the third time and the third part. And it has been going marvelously well. But first, I have to introduce my wonderful co-host, Better Than Ember. Embers, how you doing? How you
I'm
doing?
surviving today. I
Good.
hung out
It's
with
a
my
good
son,
start.
survived the protests, survived all the food recalls. We're still here.
Yeah, I was going to mention the protest, and I love that something's being done despite the lack of political sanity over there. I will express my opinion in the terms of that the lack of political sanities that the people are still sane, and why while I hate what America does, I love the people. Yeah, I'm really proud of you guys. Yeah, journey well and protest safely and protest peacefully. I'm sure there's nothing they would like more than a violent protest to say, look, it's all your fault. You brought this on yourself. So yeah, I think it's wonderful. It's great. I love it. But yeah, I'm glad you're out there. I'm glad you saw your son. Up to anything else?
um, Weirdness and things.
Okay.
It snowed this morning. It was sunny later. My car's leaking, but I don't know where it's leaking from. There's just the world is full of chaos.
It is, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. But luckily, we have a great debate here. What did you think of it so far? What were your thoughts on this debate between Woodford and Scrivener?
um, Stephen seems to be. I I don't know how to describe it. He's not like doing a setup and takedown the way Hitchens used to, but he's not
Right.
doing like a long game of chess the way Alex O'Connor likes to do sometimes.
Yes. Yep.
Um, I'm not sure. I'm He's probably going for his own style, but I'm not quite sure what to make of it. It's almost like he's just vibing and trying to keep things friendly, whereas
Yeah.
Glen keeps trying to go for some kind of lockdown gotcha, but keeps contradicting himself.
Yeah. I really support that. I think people should, in debate, when they're doing things, I think they should be themselves. I think that if you don't, you run the risk of being whoever you're trying to be, you'll just be a second class version of them. Be a first class yourself, not a second class somebody else. Like that. That's really where I come in. So and I think he's doing really well. I think that the introduction was a little shaky, but I think that he really hit his stride during the discussion. I really like what he's doing. Um, yeah, I think he's done some good posts lately on his channel. So interesting stuff. I really, yeah, I like Woodford. I think he's doing very well. But I'll get the debate up.
Yeah.
And Scrivener, there's something about him that's just I don't know. I don't want to be mean. I just want to say something off about him, right? Like just something slightly off. Like when you say a gotcha, I really understand what you mean. Like he seems to be angling or sort of not addressing things directly. He seems to be sort of going at them at a sort of an angle that sort of shows he's angling for a certain answer or angling for some sort of response. And yeah, I think you're right. I hadn't really thought about it. Yeah, he kind of is either trying to tactically get Woodford off his back, or he's going for some kind of, angle kind of thing rather than, just getting the response off the guy and going from there. And look, we've all seen traps being set up in debate, but I think there's a danger if that's all you're doing that the audience just goes, well, they're just looking for gotchas. And there's an extreme version of that with people like Jim Bob, who doesn't say anything except try and get you to say something like that. Like that's all he does. Through the
Yeah, some
entire
people
debate.
really enjoy that.
Yeah, but it comes off to me so disingenuous. Like he's not there to actually talk about things. He's there to try to get you to say something that then he can twist into something else. And don't get me wrong, Glen Scrivener is definitely not that bad, but I think you're right. I think um, that sort of something wrong there is that maybe he's not looking for a discussion. Maybe he is. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Yeah, he's not doing that thing we see so often where a person like goes out of their way to be bad faith, to twist what you said to
Right.
mean something other than what you said.
Yeah.
But he's not exactly good faith either,
Mm.
He's kind of playing in that middle ground.
Right. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's just something very, very off about this performance. I'm not sure. Yeah, no, I think that's it. I think that he really is. But also, this is a subject. The proposition for this debate is one that gets Christians' backs up. Like a lot of things Christopher Hitchens has said over the years, it's one of those things that really gets them annoyed with you if you sort of say, well, religion poisons everything. They really will get annoyed. And I understand why. And Christopher Hitchens is he said a lot of contentious things. I think that part of the charm of Christopher Hitchens was to say things that were very, very upfront and shocking to religious people, while saying it in the most charming accent ever. I think that was part of his thing, because he would say it in a rich, lovely accent, but it was shocking to people who were religious. I think that was part of his charm.
He was so abrasive, but also disarming. He could get away with
Right.
saying shocking things because he did it in a way that put you at ease. Even while he
Right.
was calling you a monster to your face, you'd still
Mhm.
kind of be okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was also, and I think it's very hard to do. I think you need it's also his vocabulary. He would select these words that were, you're right, abrasive, but they would, I guess it's like being, what'd someone say, flogged to death with a pair of shoelaces kind of thing. Like they were soft words being used in the hardest way possible. And I think that, that sort of, that middle ground that Hitch took. Um, so when others would say, "Well, religion poisons everything," kind of thing, the Christians instantly get their back up. Maybe that's part of it. He really does, he really doesn't want to give any ground whatsoever to Christianity doing anything wrong, or religion having any downside, kind of thing. And from an outside's perspective, if the proposition is religion poisons everything, you can give some ground and not give away that, right? You can say, hey, yeah, there were crusades and stuff, but that's not everything, right? Like, it doesn't mean, but he's really going, well, no. Religion's, I don't know. Maybe that's just the vibe that I'm getting.
I don't think anybody's advocating for spotlessness, but there's Hitchens is actually an interesting point to bring up, because not only is there the title of the debate,
Right.
and there's Woodford's modification of his contention.
Yes.
Woodford modified the proposition to be, there's nothing unique religion can give without also causing a different problem. Like, it
Correct.
cannot
Yes.
be positive. There's nothing it can do that's a net positive, And Glen should have been able to just waltz right over that and win the debate in minutes, and he
Right.
hasn't. And that's telling,
Yes.
But it's the thing with Hitchens is that he did sort of a reverse kind of rhetoric, which is marvelous against apologetics, because apologetics is offering a defense, and rhetoric is traditionally taking a bad position and making the best case out of it. It's not logic, it's not philosophy, it's just persuasion. And Hitchens used that power in a reverse way. In a way, he was kind of evil about it. He was taking what was presented as a moderate position and using rhetoric to make it appear as bad as possible, And then he would follow it up with a demonstration that he wasn't even exaggerating. Like, it
Right,
really is
right.
that bad. Fucking amazing. That's why
Yeah.
he nailed so many people, I guess.
Yeah, but I think I think that Woodford's take is slightly like when you say no net positive, I think his argument is that like it's not just well, yeah, that sometimes there's no net positive. I understand that. I totally get it. But I think that he's also saying that even if there is a net positive, it still comes with the bad, right? Like, even if all in all the church is donating and the church is doing this and the church is doing that, it comes with a tiny bit of poison, even the most benevolent religion out there. I would probably take a different tact if I was Scrivener. I would probably say, hey, there isn't anything on this planet, even if it is a net positive, that doesn't come with something alongside of it. Like, there's always trade-offs. Like, if you're talking something that is marvelously beneficial, like vaccines, for instance, it always comes with the chance someone has an allergic reaction, or the cost of giving out those. Like, you know, if I was Scrivener, I would say, yeah, religion comes with something bad, but so does almost, well, so does everything, really, right? Like, it sort of,
Yeah.
because that's how reality kind of works. We always have to have a price for everything we do, and if
It's
the
a
net is
really,
positive,
yeah.
well, if the net's positive, then we accept the bad, and I think I would argue with that. But he's just sort of denying the bad, and I don't see that as
Yeah.
productive because it's so
It's,
evident.
I think that's one of the reasons I get that sense of him being somewhat bad faith, is because he's just not
Right.
really engaging. He's denying and dodging, and it's just, it's
Hmm.
not good. It's not productive. It doesn't show his position in a very good light. I like your tactic. I would do a slightly different tactic.
Okay.
I might try to argue something along the lines of what you're calling poison, I'm calling the point. You know, it's not a bug, it's a feature. And then I might try
Right.
to argue from that position. And that would be a difficult
Yeah.
fight, but I could try it. But, you know, in both cases, we understand debate differently. We have our own styles and whatnot, but we both understand that when you're backed into a corner by a proposition, you have to change the paradigm. You have to shift the
Yep.
perspective. And Glen just isn't doing that.
Yeah. And I like your take. I like your take. You know, but you don't even need it to feature either. You can just say, hey, it's not poison. It's just a bad taste. Like, using, because just for those people that didn't see the part, and do see part 2 over on Better Than Ember. Fantastic. It's really got heated up, and part 1 was on this channel. So if you search things, I'm sure you can find it. You're a grown adult. You can find stuff. It's fine.
Y'all know how to YouTube.
Yeah, you can search. I mean, come on. Look,
If you do have trouble, though, we do have that playlist of all the debate reviews we've ever
I keep
done,
forgetting
including
about
this
that.
one. So you can
Yep,
just bloop, playlist.
yep. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But you know, you can argue that it's like, because you use the analogy of a well, and no matter how, you know, good the well is, anything bad in it is a poison. And I get that, but you could argue that it's not just because it's bad doesn't mean it's poison. And then, okay, the danger is then you're arguing over what's a poison. You know, you're getting into a definitional kind of debate of what constitutes poison, as opposed to merely a bad taste, as an
Or
analogy
medicine.
in, or
A lot
medicine,
of
right?
medicines are poison if you take the wrong
Oh,
dosage.
sure, yeah. But he's doing none of this. None of this. You know what? And in his defense, it is so much easier to sit back after a debate and then just say, "Oh, he should have done this. He should have done that. He should have done the other." To be fair to Glen, you know, we're basically backseating the debate. Anyway, I will get started. I do apologize. Just I find this one fascinating ever since it warmed up, and I love what's going on. I'll just up the speed slightly, and let's go.
Again, what you're doing is asking me to give you a moral theory, and that's not the proposition tonight. The proposition is, does religion poison everything?
Right.
All
And
we
what
need to do is
yeah.
take propositions that we agree on. People are not here for meta-ethics. They're here to understand
but
whether or not it poisons. If you and I agree...
Imagine that the reason why we believe those things is because of religion. Just imagine it, okay? That is what I'm saying to you, and you need to...
Am I at the right point? It was... I thought we were at a section where we sort of ended. Where are you? What am I doing?
41. Oh,
41. I was at 40:07. My apologies. That's my fault. That's my fault. I was at the wrong
okay.
spot.
Yeah, so we were only a minute off. No big. It's all good.
There we go. Yeah, all good, all good. My apologies, and I will try that again because I knew we were sort of at a natural stopping point kind of thing. But that's a good point. His obsession with meta ethics was just ridiculous, like just ridiculous. It's sort of like, oh, well, let's not discuss the moral implications of having poison. Let's discuss whether meta ethically we need poison. No, my guy, we both agree that we don't need poison in the well. That we're agreeing on that, my guy. Like, stop, please.
Maybe that's
describing what humanity is.
Maybe that's his tactic to shift the paradigm. He said, well, instead of talking about what we're talking about, why don't we talk about something else?
Yeah. I think the audience is going to notice that you're not discussing the actual subject, my guy.
Sometimes it works. We see it in Jim Bob debates often. He'll just change the subject and the other person will just follow the red herring. And then we get to the end of the debate and Jim Bob says, hey, you never addressed my opening. You never came back to my point.
To be honest with you, I've done a Jim Bob, two Jim Bob. Each one has been terrible. I have not really. I don't enjoy watching the guy. I really don't. I mean, like the guy's that bad faith. I caught a couple of shorts by Not So Erudite. She's a debater. I love women in debate. We need more women debating. She's fantastic. Really, really good. And the like him interrupting constantly is just so bad. But she did get a clip of Jim Bob failing miserably to name the three branches of government, and that was hilarious. This wannabe, guy who thinks he's a big brain, political commentator can't even.
Wait, not even up to Andrew Wilson who failed at the three branches.
No, Andrew Wilson quite evidently didn't know what the Agrippa trilemma was, or otherwise known as the Munchausen trilemma.
I'm remembering the failure of the three branches of government. And in fairness, Andrew Wilson and Jim Bob both look like very waspish men to me, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. And so they kind of mix and match in my brain. But I remember the background being the Whatever podcast. And I know Andrew Wilson frequents that podcast. Does Jim Bob go there also?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Holy crap. They have no standards.
I don't know. I can't say for sure. I just remember that point. And but people not like don't get me wrong. Your average citizen, I get you. You may not have done civics or politics or anything like that. I get you. But I have known that since like primary school. The executive, legislative, judiciary. It's just one of the main fundamentals about the political system. And to be a political commentator or a political debater and not know that is
it's unreal.
It is unreal. It is unreal. And like what I was shocked by is that he will debate biology and have like evolution, for instance. He'll debate evolution and have absolutely no understanding of biology at all. He doesn't even know what the difference between mitosis and meiosis is. Like, he has no idea. It is crazy. But yeah, you're right. And to get back to the point, he will just shift it to meta stuff like, how can you know anything about biology if you don't know anything because you don't know God kind of stuff? Like this meta, which is just, you watch it and it is, well, you are so ignorant of the subject that you're basically going, well, I've got all the answers and you don't because I know about God, even though you know nothing about the subject.
What a weak position. Because, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never... but I in that situation where Eric Hovind does the same thing. He's like, if you know God, you have access to someone who knows everything.
Right,
So then you go to
right.
Eric Hovind and you're like, tell me about the steps of cell division. And they stumble because they don't know. They don't know
Right.
even the basics. And you go, I thought you had a direct phone line to the guy who knows everything. How can
Correct.
you not know this? You know?
Mhm.
I'm kind of you've claimed too much, and your inability to demonstrate the thing you just claimed, it may not disprove God, but it proves you are lying. You are wrong.
Yes. Because it seems like when we actually put this knowledge to the test, the average person with a direct line to the all-powerful master of the universe seems to know roughly the same as the average atheist out there, and often much less. So it sort of shows that, hey, you can't claim to have, for me not to have knowledge and you to have knowledge just because you're a believer in God. It just doesn't work because you can't demonstrate that you have a greater level of knowledge than anybody else out there. On the whole, it just seems to be what you've learnt over the course of your life. And that, I think it is just that sort of, appeal to authority, and the authority being the greatest authority. You've got the greatest knowledge, and that's not how knowledge works. No.
What is humanity?
Warts and all, humans are passionate. They are.
But what makes
they
that a
have
wart?
community.
Like, if we've evolved to have warts, what's wrong with warts?
But I'm not here for a debate in metaethics, Glenn.
You've got one. You've got one. Welcome,
yes,
welcome to the debate.
because you can't debate the proposition. Look, slavery, right? You and I agree slavery's bad.
Why?
Christians failed.
Why? Why is slavery bad?
It doesn't matter why we think it's bad.
Can you not say why it's bad?
All we need is to agree on the
Can you
proposition.
not say why it's bad?
I've got
Say why it's bad without appealing to some kind of sacred ideal or transcendent reality.
Oh, sacred ideal? Oh, what? You don't need to, like, all you need to do is basically believe that the well-being of humans is important. And then you can go, well, slavery's bad, not only for the master, the slave, it's also bad for the master, it's also bad for the whole civilization. Like, it's just bad all round. But all he has to do, but he doesn't want to get into this, well, I think that slavery's bad because of, it makes people suffer, and I don't like to see suffering. Because then it's like, well, that's some kind of sacred ideal. No, it really isn't. He can just say...
Just me having a heart.
Yeah, just some normal run-of-the-mill empathy. That's not sacred. It's just run-of-the-mill empathy. He can even appeal to, Alex O'Connor's moral emotivism, say, hey, it's an emotive thing. I just go slavery, yuck. That's it. That's all he needs. And he's got a point. Like, getting into the meta-ethics of why slavery is bad is not productive here, because they both agree. Like, what are you going to be arguing about? And he wants to shift it to, well, where does the inclination to believe, or the moral stance of slavery bad, where does that come from? It doesn't matter. He's right. It doesn't matter. It just, if they agree, then you're arguing about literally nothing. You're just saying, hey, and the debate isn't where why do we define certain things as poison for society? That isn't the debate. I get
nor is where is the source, because, like, Glen's argument is, why is the well of humanity dug where it is? It's because that's the holy ground, that's the consecrated ground, that's the only place the well could be, and that's why it's necessary to have the poison, because it's present in this ground that's necessary to build the well. But you don't need that, because, like, say, for example, democracy was enacted by a pre-Christian society, not based in sacred principles. It was an entirely new thing. Why is that good? It's not derived from Christianity. They didn't need Christianity to do it. Yep. Why is democracy a good thing? Under Glen's presuppositions.
Yeah. Be halfway then. Why is it bad?
because we're made in God's image, and therefore to enslave an image of God is as unthinkable as to enslave God himself, right? And we were created to have dominion rather to be served.
So
These were the arguments that brought about.
Ew. I hate the dominionist position. It's so gross.
The problem comes that in the Old Testament, slavery is permissible, perfectly permissible. Take your slaves from the nations around you, kind of thing. Like, yeah, it was perfectly permissible, and the sort of even within the tribe of Israel, the you could still have indentured servants, which we would consider a form of slavery today. You know, like absolutely consider it a form of slavery today.
Yeah, so, and in that case,
I'm just going to point this out.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to point out that the way the Israelites, their indentured servitude, even though it's like a period of 7 years or ends on the 50th year or whatever, depending on whether they're male or female, or if they do the ceremony at the doorpost and all that crap, but it's temporary slavery. But it's still you're still property. You're not permanent property. It's almost like an equipment lease program, I suppose. You know, I'm getting into the weeds. You were saying.
Yeah, just as point, on average, a typical atheist gives less than a typical Christian. Yeah, and there's a few reasons for that. And by give, if you mean give to churches, yes. And a lot of those donations are counted if they give to churches, even if the church doesn't use it for charity. Now, it's very difficult to tell what churches use for charity and what they don't, because they don't have to show their books, do they? I sort of think about all of the gold-lined ceremonial things in the Vatican and all of the prosperity gospel guys, and all of that is considered charity, even though I would argue it's not. But what's really interesting is that atheists give more to people who are not in their group. Atheists, and I can back this up with studies, that they actually give to their to Muslims and Christians and other people. Regardless, Christians will tend to give it only to other Christians. They will give to their in-group, not so much to the out-group. So it's very fascinating that, yeah, atheists give less, but Christians only give more to other Christians, not to other people. So, yeah, it's very interesting. Oh yeah. No, I'm saying that. Yeah, but what you've got to understand is that when those studies are done, it's just like all of that is just giving to the church. It doesn't necessarily mean the church is using it for something for the rest of society. And the other thing is that atheists are also way more generous to people that are not atheists. You know, like if there's a Christian, they will give more. And while Christians will be incredibly reluctant, like to help an atheist or help a Muslim or help a Hindi or help somebody who is not of their own religion. It's very insular like that. Is that the study that I'm talking about? Did you just link it, Amber? You are amazing.
Sure
Yeah. Yeah.
It came up more than twice, and so I put the link to it on my website so I could find it again later.
No, cool.
Yes.
Congratulations, Noise ending. Yeah. So yeah, I'm totally up for that debate. I really do. That's fine. Well, no, I mean, Archer, I get what you're saying. I just I don't want to have it misinterpreted. What I'm saying is that Christians give to their in-group, because give to yourself suggests that, hey, I'm gonna, be charitable and buy myself a car or something. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it sounds like. So, but I get what you're saying, Archer. Yes. When we're doing studies on in-group and out-group, atheists and people with no religion are more generous to people in their out group, people that they see as not in their in group. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, the hoarding of wealth by some religions is pretty gratuitous. I know that what's the richest? The Mormons are the richest, aren't they? They've got ridiculous piles of money. I'm not sure why. If the world is being raptured or whatever, or we're coming to the end of the world, they're piling up stacks of cash. But yeah,
Jesus needs money when he gets back for some reason.
apparently so. It reminds me of that
gold
George
rope
Carlin's. It
or
reminds me
something.
of that George Carlin sketch kind of thing, like he because he loves you
Yeah.
and he needs money. All powerful or knowing or benevolent, just can't handle money. Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah.
Abolition in the 17th, 18th centuries.
All right. What doctrine tells you that?
I just gave you two doctrines: the doctrine of the image of God and the doctrine that humanity has dominion. Now, you tell me, why is slavery wrong?
Because I don't think you've done the job.
Why is slavery wrong?
But you haven't done the job, Glenn.
You asked
Like,
for two doctrines.
if you wanted to play this game,
I gave you two.
if you want to play this game, we could play this game. Why is it that it's good or bad? Is it because God says so?
Oh, okay. Bang. Wow. Okay, so this is the Euthyphro dilemma, right? One of my favorites. I really wanna get on a channel and talk about it because Stephen here is giving one of the most famous ancient, right? This was before Christianity, ancient dilemmas that tripped up many an ancient Greek philosopher. Fantastic. Now, it originally started out, I'll give you a quick rundown, originally started out as, is this good because the gods love it, or is it good because, do the gods love it because it is good? And over the years, it has developed from there, but essentially it remains the same. Is something good because God says it's good, or is God conveying that it's good because it's somehow inherently good? And there's other reasons why it's good, and it trips people up because basically it means that either God is saying it's good and there's no other reason. So when Glen's appealing to doctrine here, he's saying, well, the church says it's good, because that's what doctrines are. They're proclamations by a church of some sort of religious conviction.
Oh, you want to go Euthyphro?
Yes.
Okay, all right, let's do Euthyphro. Okay, should we catch people up with Euthyphro? Alrighty. Okay, so Socrates' last dialogue is with Euthyphro. He is having this dialogue with a guy who is on trial, and Socrates is really weirded out by this dude because he seems to be very, very pious. So pious, he is about to testify against his own father on a capital charge. He's about to sell out his own dad. So much does he think the truth really, really matters. And so Socrates is really interested in this guy because he's really into piety, and he's trying to figure out, where does piety come from? Where does morality come from? Goodness, right? The translation of piety is right at the heart of this debate, actually. But anyway, so he's like, well, are you doing the right thing because the gods say it's the right thing? Or do the gods say it's the right thing, and therefore it is it arbitrary that the gods just point to something and they just arbitrarily call truth-telling is good, but also they might say hopping on one foot on a Tuesday is also arbitrarily good? Is it just so arbitrary that the gods, or...
No, well, here's the thing. It's sort of changed over the years. So he's pointing the original sort of dialogues kind of thing between Euthyphro and Socrates, as written by Plato, of course. Socrates never wrote anything, but it's sort of changed since then, and it doesn't need to be an arbitrary reason. Like he's sort of saying, is it an arbitrary reason that the gods point at something and sort of say that is good kind of thing? Really, it's just either, sort of when it comes down to it, the dilemmas change slightly, because really what we're after is it a subjective thing that God says, hey, this is good and that is what makes it good? Is your morality based upon the subjective stance, right? The position of God? Like if he says in the Old Testament slavery is good, does that make it good? And if he says now slavery is bad, does that make it bad? Is it based upon that subjective perspective of a deity, or does it come from some other place? Which, look, it may be objective, but you've got to actually say where it comes from. And so one is one prong of this dilemma, or one fork of this dilemma, is basically saying, well, you've got to admit that it's subjective because it's only stance dependent, and the stance is God's. That's subjective. Or it comes from some other place. Now, I'm not saying that's not objective, but you've got to come up with it. You're kicking the can down the road. Because if God doesn't say what is good or not, you've got to come up with where it actually comes from. So it's not necessarily what Glen's saying anymore. Even though that obviously that was the origin of the dilemma, absolutely.
Is goodness so outside of the gods that they just must shrug their shoulders and just say, oh, there's an independent thing out there called goodness, right? Would you agree that that's kind of the dilemma?
Yeah,
so the dilemma?
To rephrase it, just so that maybe there's another angle, it's, does God command you to do something because it is good, which means he's referring to something external to himself? Or is goodness just defined as whatever God says? So if God commanded you to murder children, then that's what goodness is.
Yeah, so that's an excellent summation. Yeah, I probably should have just left it running. That's a fantastic summation. Does it come in? Does what is good come internally to God, or is it something external? That's a really good way to phrase it.
Right.
And the answer that's typically given.
Well, who's writing down Socrates' thing, I mean, Plato's answer is that God is goodness, right? And that he kind of refuses the dilemma. That's been the most ancient answer to the Euthyphro dilemma, actually. It probably doesn't sound very satisfying to most people sitting in this room. God is goodness, what does that mean? But interestingly, it was Christians talking to Platonists that actually got a lot of traction, because they were basically saying, look, I know you guys don't think that the squabbling deities who are, pointing to goodness and evil, that they are actually good. I know you don't believe that. But you Platonists, you seem to believe that there is a goodness above the squabbling deities. Let me tell you the name of that God, a God who is love, right? And they said, look, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit bound together as a community of love. Their life is love, right? So God is goodness in the sense that, well, God is love and goodness is love, right? And this is the kind of world that Christians say we live in. We live in a world.
Oh my goodness!
Right.
Glen is somewhat in the ballpark of historical accuracy, but not really. What he's talking about is Saint Augustine, who during the years when Rome was falling and losing its power, he used his powers for rhetoric to bolster the church, and he was running around saying, "Well, the Neoplatonists tell us that there's a form of a chair from which all chairs draw their essence, and there's a form of a tree from which all trees draw their tree-like essence, and there's a form of a cloud from which all clouds draw their cloudness. So therefore, if we understand that good exists, there must be an ultimate form from which goodness draws its good, and that's what we call God." Like, it's just a mic drop, the same way Muslim apologists today go, you believe in the Big Bang? That's what we call God. Done.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the argument. And we know it was Augustine because he wrote it down.
Yeah, and I think he's sort of also he's hedging a little bit as well, because he's sort of saying, well, that is God. And I think he's appealing to God's nature, and that's a very dangerous thing to do, because if you appeal to God's nature for the origin of good, he hasn't addressed whether it's external or internal, right? He hasn't addressed that. The question then becomes, can God change his nature? Like, I have power over my nature. I can go and talk to people and change what I'm doing, and get a different perspective on life. My nature is very different than it was when I was a young man, for instance, but didn't know as much. So I can change my nature. Can God change his nature? If he can't, if God's nature is unchanging, then so is morality. There's also a bigger problem. If you appeal to God's nature, then anything you think your God has done, because don't forget, everything acts within its own nature, right? Like if anything that is in God's nature is good, then everything in the Old Testament is good, including genocides, wiping out the human race with floods, slavery. Anything is acceptable morally that happens in the Old Testament, because God does that and commands those massacres. And yeah, I get that you say, oh, but you know, but it's in God's nature. Humans shouldn't do that. That's fine. But then you're not getting your morality from God's nature. You're getting it from what God says humans should do and what God should do. I would grant, maybe we shouldn't go out and genocide even though it's moral for God, as a internal critique of your morality, sure. But then you're not getting your morality from a God. You're getting it from what God says humans should do and what God says is permissible for him to do. Because if you're appealing to his nature, then all of that stuff in the Old Testament is fine. Oh, hey, Dave.
And which
so good
nature?
to see you.
Yay.
Yeah, so I just want to mention, Dave, Captain Des, I meant to call in on you. I was running late today. I didn't get a chance. I really wanted to call in you. It looked like a fascinating discussion. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm sorry. Please, forgive me. Forgive me. All hail Bigfoot. Forgive me.
But yeah, it's great to see you back, Dave. But we do have to question, which nature of God are we talking about? Are we doing Augustine's God is the good and also the love, which are both the same thing but also different things, sort of like the Trinity? Or are we talking the nature that's laid out in the Bible that claims to be talking about the real God? Like which one of these contradictory, mutually exclusive natures is the true God's nature that we're supposed to be drawing our morality from?
Sure.
It's been made by love, shaped by love, determined for love, and to violate that love, that is the essence of what evil kind of is. So there's something about the Euthyphro dilemma and some of the moves that I make.
So is it that you're saying that it's a false dichotomy?
Yeah, I think from Plato onwards, people have been refusing the dilemma.
So straight up, what is the answer?
So straight up, the answer is God is love, right?
Which is.
Wait, you can like, so this is wild that he's going down this route, because he's saying that morals come from love. Now, I would suggest that someone can love and still do wrong things. Like, you have stalkers, you have somebody that loves his wife, gets drunk and does something. Like, it's such a weaselly kind of thing. And I'm not hassling Glen, I'm not trying to insult him, but that's not a great answer, because you're basically pointing to something that is entirely emotive as your basis for morality. Like, how can I tell if Ember is starving me out of love or out of something else? Because I've seen a lot of Christians do a lot of really terrible things while telling people that they love them. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not taking away your rights because I'm a bad person. I'm taking away your rights because I love you and want the best for you. Okay. And I would argue that I don't think that looks like love for a start, but even if it is, doesn't make it moral, right? Doesn't make it moral. So I think that this answer it's a non-answer, because anybody can justify just about anything on, well, I'm doing it out of love. And we have had that problem with, Christianity before, like say, for instance, the Catholic Church preventing condoms from being distributed in Africa, and in fact telling the local populations that it will cause AIDS rather than prevent it. They were doing that ostensibly, or they claim they're doing it out of love because they don't want to see them go to hell. Okay, maybe they're genuine in that. Maybe that is something they do, and maybe it was done with genuine love for those people. Still isn't moral to do. Okay, still isn't moral to do. So yeah.
The first one, God defines it because he is love. If God commands us to go and murder children, as he does with the conquest of Canaan...
But God is love, right?
But this is the point. If you define him as love, whatever he commands is love. So when the conquest of Canaan comes up...
because...
show me how it's different.
Because the persons of the Trinity are equiprimordial. My favorite word.
Like I like how Stephen encapsulated that idea in a sentence and a half.
Yep.
He was like, so if everything God commands is love, and then he commands people to like stab people, then we're just stabbing, we're murdering you out of love.
Yeah.
Wowzers.
Yeah, and that's a brilliant tag, you know, and he can point to where God commanded, say, the Amalekites to be slaughtered in the Old Testament out of love for his chosen people. So that is moral to do. As long as God is telling you to do it, that's love.
Okay, I can kind of understand, but then I don't see why Glen is promoting this God. Like, you could say, you know what, that all makes sense for said chosen people, which is
Right.
not me. I'm very European. So why am I promoting the slaughter of all the people who are not Israelite? Like, what are we doing here?
Well, I mean, look, it like you sort of, during the time of the New Testament, Jesus, it had a completely different take on how the Gentiles were to be treated, like basically the non-Israel, non-Jewish people, non-Israelites, basically, how they were to be treated, and it had a lot of acceptance for them in the New Testament. But any of these things can be justified as moral if you're just doing it for some kind of love that is very, and this is what I sort of want to draw attention to. It's very nebulous, which means that it's very vague and fuzzy, and it's not easily graspable. You can't just say, hey, you know, compare it with, say, humanism, right? Where you just basically say, well, if that is bad for the well-being of humans, then it's a bad thing. We can go, well, it doesn't matter who's slaughtering who, out of what reason. Like, just because you think that, hey, I love those people, so I'm going to get them to heaven by, I don't know, starting an inquisition to do all kinds of nasty things to them, that's still bad, because it is bad for human well-being. Like, it's against that. But, you know, you can appeal to, and I'll just reinforce it. If I say, hey, I'm doing this to you out of love, I can justify anything, literally anything. So yeah, it's a problem.
I see two things. The first is that Glen is trying to like preload moral necessities, but you don't even need that. You can just go based on outcomes and say, this produces a worse outcome along these particular metrics. Like slavery,
Right.
for example, produces a worse outcome for the enslaved person, you know? Like we don't need moral metrics there, just outcomes. But the other thing is, an idea occurred to me while you were talking. What if we have the polarity of the love that God is supposed to represent backwards? We keep thinking he is love, so all his actions should be loving and caring and benevolent. But what if what they're actually saying is he's the receiver of love? Any horror can be justified out of your love for God.
Right. That's actually quite scary. But I mean, they're not consequentialists. That's the thing. I think that sort of I personally believe that having a very structured form of consequentialism based upon outcomes is a really good thing, because, you know, that's the best way to get to whatever outcome that you're after, you know, and that's what I think. But I don't think he is. I think he's using some kind of deontology, some sort of, you know, this is the structure. But I mean, he's all over the place. I'm not sure even what he's appealing to now. It seems so vague. Like, you know,
he set up his Mott and Bailey early in the discussion, but instead of staying in his Bailey, he's like skipping over to a different Bailey. And as soon as Stephen like even just looks in his direction, he skips to a completely different Bailey. It's like, dude, do you have a position?
Yeah. He's basically castle hopping at the moment. But you know, the problem, and I think I would leverage this against Alex O'Connor as well, saying that normative morality is sort of emotional based. It's emotive. That, you know, as long as you're doing it out of love, you can justify anything. Everything's moral kind of thing. I think I would leverage against the same thing, as long as you have a positive emotion towards this thing, then if that's moral, okay. I mean, don't get me wrong, Alex O'Connor's a lot more nuanced than this. It's based upon culture and all of these things inputting into that emotive reaction. But I kind of would say that, hey, if you think that purging people is going to get them a place in heaven, and then that's out of love, it's a good thing, and you can do the most horrible things. It seems very immoral to me. I don't know how you justify that. And I don't know how you would set up some kind of system to judge who is in, like, just say you have some person saying that Christians need to be locked up because you love them and you don't want them out there practicing a, horrible religion. And just say you have right, they'll hurt themselves or condemn themselves to eternity in hell or whatever. And you have some other person who's a Christian saying that, hey, Christians need to have freedom of expression, bodily autonomy, and all these other things. How, using love, do you determine who is morally right? Like, how do you determine that?
Right. Like if your kids get into a fight, for example, the
Right.
kids are like, oh, she pulled my hair because he stole my cookie, whatever. You can like sort through the root cause and effect and whatnot. But how do you determine what is the moral thing to do based on love? Like that's not a useful tool.
Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, it's also something that I leverage against two people fighting over morality who appeal to God's nature, right? Because a lot of the time you'll put out the Euthyphro and they'll say, well, it's not a stance. It's not God's stance. And he just says, hey, this is good because I say it's good. Or this is good for humans because I say it's good for humans. It's not him deciding it. It flows from his nature. And you will say, well, fine, just say you have two Christians arguing, one saying that, hey, loving gay people and allowing them freedom is in God's nature, and the other person saying it isn't. How do you tell which one is representing God's nature? And usually they'll go to the Bible, and that doesn't solve the problem because each has their own interpretation of the Bible. Like, how do you actually, like with something else where you're basing it upon consequences, like you said, you can go, okay, what are the consequences for this? And what is the best for the, what outcome do I want? And what is the best empirically, which isn't stance dependent, empirically is senses and, things in the real world. What is the best outcome? Like, to get me to where I want to go. So you can actually evaluate that. But with the God thing, you can't seem to evaluate it. It's just two people, one saying, hey, God loves to slaughter people, so we're going to do that. And the other one going, no, God wants to preserve people, and they have no way to actually discuss whether it is a good or a bad thing because they're both appealing to something that cannot be accessed, which is God's nature. And if you can show me a God's nature, I'm right there alongside you saying, hey, we can evaluate it. But they can't.
There is no first and second in terms of the life of God. The threeness of God in their mutual love for one another and the oneness of God in terms of his being are fundamentally identical in eternity, right? And so... And
Glenn, to say that they're fundamentally the same is to make the point that I'm making, is to say that what God commands or what God is just arbitrarily what morality is.
Are you mistaking me for a divine command ethicist? Because I'm not a divine command. I thought we weren't going to do meta-ethics. We're doing meta-ethics here.
What I'm saying is you don't have an answer, and I can play Philosophy 101 with you as well, and you're going to ground out with an arbitrary view, as you are right now.
Oh, it's not arbitrary. The fact that love is
literally arbitrary. It's God's nature.
No. See, the whole Trinitarian debate, we're going to get into Trinity as well. Okay, this is so good.
I can phrase it better.
Smoke screens and red herrings and shit. At this point, Steven's just like, all right, I'll play because you're clearly waffling and I've already won. So let's fuck around and find out. But it's just... he's like throwing everything he's got at the wall to try to distract Steven.
Well, I will support him in the thing of a God's nature isn't necessarily arbitrary, right? So arbitrary has a certain meaning that people confuse with subjective, right? Like objective and arbitrary are not the same. Arbitrary is sort of a whim. Just I'm just gonna randomly choose this thing. It doesn't really matter, which pen shall I use, kind of thing. Just grab one, right? Like, it really has no actual sort of solid reason behind it. It is just your whim, just your emotional state, and some kind of sort of pseudo randomness thrown in. If I go, well, I've got a pen that I really like because, out of all my pens, because it writes really well, feels really good. You can say, hey, that's completely subjective, and it is, sure. Sure, it is. How it feels to you may be subjective, but that doesn't make it arbitrary. There are reasons why you're doing it, and maybe very good reasons to you, even if they're subjective. So I really think that, but him going, oh, well, God's nature isn't arbitrary, that well may be true, but he's appealing to three different natures, which is a problem, because if you want to go, well, you've got the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit kind of thing. The Father slaughters Amalekites and commands them to be slaughtered, and does awful things to people who don't burn the right incense and things like that, who six she-bears on children because they make fun of bald people, right? Like, that's the Yahweh in the Old Testament. That's the Father. The Jesus character is all, take care of the meek and the sick, and do all of these things, and forgive people, like, for instance, a bald man that makes children that make fun of a bald man, for instance, would be a good idea to forgive them. I'm personally on that one because they're fucking children, but that's just me. And then you've got the Holy Spirit, who just seems to give people feels. Like, how do you get a consistent morality from having three different natures? And I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about this in my head. Three different natures, each so radically different. And I think maybe what Stephen's pointing to is it's arbitrary which one you choose. Whether the Christian goes, oh, well, I'm going to be, rain righteous fire on that person. Whether they go, well, I'm going to forgive him, or I'm going to go away and have good feels in a church, is really just arbitrary.
It's picking, it's cherry picking your verses, I suppose. It's backing your
Possibly,
beliefs
yeah.
up based on what you already believe.
Possibly,
you just,
yeah.
Circles within circles. I do like that the bald prophet and the she bears for the children thing. That's an interesting one, because so often we run into people mocking others, attempting to hurt others because they're a member of a group, or they have a certain characteristic, or whatever the case may be. Whereas in the Holy Scriptures, God makes it very clear that he will not suffer that kind of bullshit. You don't even get to mock people for being bald. Even if you're a child, he will fuck you up. So why are they trying to hurt people's feelings just to be mean? Like, are they in fact mocking their God, saying, God, I know how you feel about this. I know, I've read your book. I know your stance, but fuck you. I'm going to mock these people and be hurtful anyway.
Mm-hmm.
We have more respect for their God than they do. What a shame.
If you like.
Arbiter is like the word for will. And actually, Christian theology, including Augustine was brilliant on this, okay? Augustine, not so good on slavery. Augustine, pretty good on Trinity. Okay.
I love that he has to throw that in. Augustine was brilliant on this. Not so good on slavery. But this was fantastic. Okay. No, I get you. Like, just because he's wrong on slavery. Yeah.
Stephen would absolutely jump on that. He'd be like, oh, you think Augustine's so great, but you just said slavery's bad earlier. So why is he like this brilliant thinker in this one area and not in this other, except for the fact that you agree with the one thing and don't agree with the other?
Yeah,
your morality is arbitrary, buddy.
But I don't mind doing that. Like, I don't mind looking at a thinker and going, yes, they had some good ideas and terrible ideas, okay? But this is supposed to be people with a direct line to the moral master of the universe. Like, why is it so confusing for them? I don't understand. Yeah, I get you. Yes, it's time. I am God. Yes, Sapphire, you got me. You got. Then again, I'm not sensitive about it. I just rock it. Look, just rock the dome. I gotta say, if you're balding and stuff, don't just rock it. Just go for it.
The idea that God, that the Son of the Father is an object of his love by nature, not a product of the will. Christians have always put love before will, which means that there has always been an ethical community before ethical commands by God, right? So so it's not that the commands of God are the ultimate thing that determines what is right and wrong. The community of God, that is love, comes prior to the commands of God. Okay, so I think that does escape the arbitrary point. Why did we get onto
no, it does not, because I can ask you this, and this has been known since the beginning. Does God choose his nature, Glen?
No.
Okay, so it was arbitrary.
No. You know that the word arbitrary means choosing.
If God doesn't choose his nature...
You know that the word arbitrary means choosing. Okay.
Yes, but you know what I'm saying? I'm saying that
he doesn't choose to be loved. He is love.
Does he align his nature with goodness or not?
He does not choose to align his goodness, his nature with goodness.
Because he either aligns it with goodness, or it is love, as you just said, which illustrates my point. Which means you don't have a workable moral theory here. You just have might makes right.
Oh, I don't have might makes right. How do you avoid having might makes right? I say love is...
Wow, a bit sensitive there. So I'm trying to get what Stephen's sort of angling at or sort of saying here. Does he choose to align his nature with love? Does he choose to align his nature with love? So I think
to align your nature.
Well, I think he's sort of saying, like, so the origin of God's goodness is not internal, it's love. And then he's sort of saying God is love. So it's very contradictory for me. I'm not sure where... I'm really trying to understand where Glen's coming from. Because he's sort of saying, hey, God is love and that is moral. And I don't know about that one. I think that, I think that Stephen's right. He doesn't have a working moral structure here, because if I love to just say I love to hurt people, right? That's what I love. Is that moral? No, I would say no. Of course not. Like, that's awful. But why is that not love? I'm really struggling to understand how you pin down any kind of working moral structure from saying morality is love. It just whatever is love, that's moral. With
3 kinds of equivocation and enough non sequiturs to produce a whole YouTube channel.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. And so I think Stephen does have a point that he can't get a moral structure out of it. Is it arbitrary? I think there's a lot of reasons. Look, if somebody loves something, it may be arbitrary. It may be like, oh, well, I just feel that way because I feel that way. I just, that's something that I don't know why I love them. I just do. That would be arbitrary. Sometimes it is, hey, well, I love my wife because she takes care of me. She feeds me pancakes, whatever the reasons are, which isn't really arbitrary. There's some good reasons as to why you love them. But I think Stephen's onto a point, because a lot of the time, even though someone else may give you pancakes, I mean, I don't love my Waffle House waitress or something. You know what I mean? Like, it usually is, well, it's because I feel that way. And that definitely is arbitrary. So I do think he's got a point here. But he's definitely solid in the point that you've got no working moral system. Because I could just say, well, I love murdering folks, and that's
right. It's like there's nothing there. There's no substance. It's just completely platitudes.
It's vacuous, completely vacuous. It's basically just saying, well, whatever you love, because if I love something, then that is God. And then Glen's in the position of saying, well, no, you don't love that thing then. And it's like, well, what the hell? How can you show that? How can you determine that? How can we get 2 people with opposing moral stances or saying that there's moral facts because they love something? How do we determine which one actually loves it and which one doesn't? It's just nonsense, in my opinion. I just don't know how you actually determine that. And if you want to go to the Bible, sure, Sure, but there's a lot of stuff done in the Bible that were not out of love. So I don't know how you square that away either. It's kind of weird.
Ultimate. What is ultimate in your worldview?
Okay.
What is ultimate?
We put the UFO through.
What is ultimate? Seriously? This is a pre-sup defense where they're basically going, well, if you don't know what's ultimate, you can't have knowledge, kind of thing. It's such a bad defense because, you know, I don't know for sure what's ultimate. You know, is the universe ultimate? Yeah, possibly. I mean, you know, what is ultimate? I think that reality is ultimate in terms of truth, but what's ultimate in terms of morality? Well, if you've got a subjective morality, nothing's ultimate. What are you even talking about? It's weird. It's so strange to go from morality into some kind of pre-suppy foundation debate.
Kind of connected, right? Because like one of the reasons, virtually all apologists, Sean McDowell did a survey of the 100 most famous apologists or whatever, and he was like, what reasons are you convinced Christianity is true? And virtually all of them gave some version of one of the 5 classical arguments that there must be a specific God, and I'm going to make the jump that it's my specific God for whatever reason.
Right.
It's this I don't know, something elementary school flavored in their thinking that there must be one single cause behind things. And so they get this kind of oversimplistic thing that doesn't make sense and isn't justified, but they want to assert it anyway. On the other end of things too, there must be an ultimate goal, there must be an ultimate purpose, there must be an ultimate master. Everything has to go to one single point for no reason. They just needs to be simple, you know. I came to understand this when I was 4 years old, so that's as complicated as it's ever going to get. And there's no reason there has to be an ultimate this way, or that way. It's never given, it's just asserted, you know.
The dilemma down because we don't want to take up too much time. And I was worried about getting into a meta-ethical debate rather than, for instance, is slavery good or bad? We can argue this premise.
Okay.
What I've illustrated
is
here...
Is slavery good or bad is much closer to this debate, isn't it?
It is.
So, is it good or bad? And if so, why?
This is my point. I've just illustrated that you can't ground it, goodness. So I'm going to meet you halfway, and for the purpose of this debate, I'm going to say that I can't either. But you and I agree...
You can't. You can't say why slavery is wrong.
No. I said that for the purpose of this debate, I'll meet you with what you've just done, which is to fail to ground goodness.
Well, people can be the judge of whether the doctrine of the Trinity is a sufficient answer to the Euthyphro dilemma. Everybody, I think the most ancient answer to
doctrine of the Trinity.
Doctrine of the Trinity.
What the fuck does that have to do with Euthyphro?
Well, you know, if he said nature of the Trinity, I would sort of go, well, like, how can you ground morality on 3 very vastly different things? Because even if you're saying that they're the same entity, they're definitely different persons. So I don't know how you ground that on one ultimate. It doesn't work. It's weird that when you go to an ultimate foundation with some of these Christians that they point to 3 things like the Trinity and say that's the ultimate, but it's one, but it's 3. And I've never understood how you can logically get to that answer. It's 1 and 3 things.
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
It's a violation of all 3 laws of logic, so you can't do it logically. That doesn't necessarily mean it's automatically false, but you need some kind of strong justification for why logic should be suspended in this one specific case.
To Euthyphro has always been to refuse the dilemma.
It's always been known to not work.
Okay, should we move on?
I think we must.
I think we must.
Listen, all right. 4th century,
you guys are being very patient.
Christianity does not emancipate the slaves. All right. 100 years later of Christian dominion, they own the establishment, they own the institutions. Dominant force. Do they end slavery in the 5th century, Glen?
Do they add to the slavery of the world? Do they
add to the slavery of the world?
Question.
What are you talking about?
Let
Yes.
me ignore your question and replace it with a different question.
Yeah. God in their oaths. Sorry, I'm just also having an argument in the chat. So yeah. Because I was in Cubs, not Scouts. I was in Cubs. I don't know, and I didn't go on to do Scouts because it wasn't a great place. But I know for a fact that the Scouts and the Cubs they reference God in their oaths. They're very religious. Yeah, very religious.
Yeah. In fact, I was in a secular troop when I was younger, but because of the nature of things, all our meetings were in like church basements and whatnot, which is the first place I came across the 10 Commandments. And I read the very first commandment, and then I had to go ask my scoutmaster some questions. I was like, why does everyone keep telling me there's only one true God when the 10 Commandments of this God himself, the very first one, right up front says there are other gods? How come you all are saying there's only one true God when your God is saying there's other gods? What up? What's going on?
Yeah, just to point out the Scout oath for those people in the chat. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country. So the Scouts are not actually secular. They are not overtly, but they definitely have religious overtones to them.
Right, because they will include people. I'm trying to say three things at once again. Islamic students, people from any denomination, atheists, of course, can join, but you still have to say the oath. Even pantheists, or polytheists, rather. Bleh. Brain glitching. In which case you would say gods and my country. But yeah, and the Cub Scout oath is very similar. It's in and obey the laws of the pack kind of thing. It's very weird, but whatever. It's religion flavored secularism. It's the assumption of default religion rather than the disinclusion of religion altogether, but it's under the pluralistic assumption that any religion is fine, sort of like the Masons do. They don't care what religion you have, you just have to have one.
Yeah.
Because you don't like mine.
I don't what? Sorry.
Are you asking a different question because you don't like mine?
It's
a simple yes or no. Did Christians abolish slavery in the 5th century?
Abolish slavery? No, and nobody else did either.
6th century?
No.
False.
False. Yep.
And no one else in the Christian world did either. So there's that. I don't know all of world history entirely off the top of my head, but we have discussed many times previously on this channel, on my channel, and in many and many other situations, the Persian Empire abolished slavery before Christianity was even really a thing.
Yes.
The Chinese Empire abolished slavery. The dozens of empires in Africa abolished slavery. The different Arabian empires abolished slavery several times over. Virtually everyone abolished slavery before Christianity even thought about abolishing slavery. And Glen's over here going, oh yeah, we were the first. You were the last, buddy. You were the very fucking last.
Well, nobody else did either.
So 200 years of full Christian power where they have done some remarkable changes.
But they're not poisoning anything. How are they poisoning anything?
Like, for instance...
to make your thesis work, first of all, Christians have got to be adding to the religiosity of the world, which is just, like, religion just baked in. Like, to imagine that you can unbake the cake of religion from human society and kind of separate the flour out and then point to that nasty thing called religion over there. Christians were not adding to the religiosity of the world.
Leviticus does this.
Quite the opposite, actually.
Ephesians does this.
Sorry, what does?
Explicitly, Ephesians is saying slaves obey your masters.
Have you read Ephesians?
Yes.
The whole book?
I quoted it literally earlier on.
No, have you read?
Yes, I've read the Bible.
You've read the Bible?
Yes.
Like, what is this genetic fallacy kind of poisoning the world? Oh, but have you read the entire book? But have you read it?
An atheist who read the Bible. I don't understand.
Oh, no. What the hell are you talking about? Like, a lot of atheists have read the Bible, my guy. I hate to break it to you, but yes. And there definitely is a overtone of slaves, obey your masters. Now, you might argue it was because the Romans were going to, if slaves, Christian slaves were uprising, the Romans would brutally crush them, but it still says that. Like, it doesn't say, hey, slavery is wrong. It says slaves obey your masters. I mean, even the harsh ones, which is not great. And the fact that it's not great doesn't make it suddenly, oh, well, you haven't read it properly. You
can't even say it's anti-slavery. Like, I get that, the abolitionists pulled Bible passages to support their position, but like Paul is very clear about his stance on things because he has the holy telephone to talk to the undead invisible carpenter ghost who wants to live inside you. And his whole thing is, it doesn't matter what happens in this life if your master is kind or cruel, because we're all slaves of God, and we will continue to be slaves. It doesn't matter what the human masters do. We're all slaves of God. Like, it's all slavery all the way down for him.
How long ago?
I don't know, maybe every 6 months?
Every 6 months you read the Bible?
No, it'll be actually about 2 years from now.
Okay.
Tell me, why is that verse wrong?
Ephesians 6.
Ephesians 6:5, yeah.
Oh, Ephesians 6:5 is the beautifully contextualized advice that Paul will give to a Christian community that is living in a slave society.
And just so you know what that says again,
yeah.
Slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear, and with sincerity of heart, just as you do obey Christ.
Right. So you move into a new society and you say, okay, within the church community, there is no Lord except Christ, and we are all brothers and sisters. We are not slaves of one another. There is an absolute egalitarianism within the church. When you go back into the workplace, as it were, you are to do your job well, okay? And that is the working within the structures. That is the only thing that has ever ended.
Okay. Let's just pause for a second and say, imagine if you had a leader of the black slaves in the antebellum slavery South, right? Who said, yes, to each other we're all equals. There's absolutely no slavery between each other. But when you go back into, the house of the masters, the white masters, obey them with fear and respect, just as you would Christ. Would that be a good person?
I'm not a fan. I wouldn't be
I'm not a
inclined
fan.
to do anything else such a person says.
No, absolutely not. With fear and trembling. I'm sorry. Okay, so Kip's absolutely destroying us because the translation is with fear and trembling. It's not. So that's probably the most accurate translation. There's nothing I can do about the video, Kip, obviously. But okay, be aware, everybody, that it says fear and trembling. Yeah. I think that I would trust Dr. Kip for most things. I might not trust him on some things.
Yeah, he reads the damn language, It's
totally.
But it also tracks, right? Like, because when we do the translations, a lot of translators are trying to spin things a certain way. When they have a choice between words, they'll pick a softer word here and a harsher word here for whatever way they're trying to shape the message.
Yep.
And the fear and trembling, it's significant because you're not just being obedient. You're supposed to be fearful to the point of trembling. It changes the message quite a bit.
Yeah. So be afraid of your masters, and definitely don't. I think that's a bad message for any slave. You weren't yelling at me. No, I gotcha. Look, I just maybe I love to be yelled at by you, Kip. Maybe maybe I love that. So in if it's love, then apparently it's perfectly moral according to Glen here. So yeah. That's perfectly moral. Because you're yelling at me in love, then it's perfectly moral. Look, don't question it. It's the nature of the Trinity. Apparently, I don't understand that, but sure.
the slave trade, okay? Jesus says that his movement will work like yeast works through dough, okay? A long-term kind of prospect, but it is the only thing that has ever ended the slave trade. So what's the alternative? What's the counterfactual history you're going to tell us?
No,
I think that, you know, the abolitionist movement, yeah, there was a lot of Christians in it, but there were a lot of Christians around at the time. There was also deists in it. There was a lot of people in it. Like, let's not pretend it was just all Christians. And let's not pretend that it wasn't Christians on the other side as well. Like saying, no, we have divine right to our slaves. We you know, so it really doesn't track.
Right. Even if you ignore all the other times every other culture abolished slavery, which Glen is clearly doing, even if you only consider within the Christian world, the kingdom of Christendom, which, you know, that's not racist or ethnocentric at all to say the rest of the world doesn't matter, but never mind that. Just within Christendom, the fact that there's Christians on both sides means Christians don't get credit whichever outcome happens.
Correct.
Because it's something else that's the deciding factor here.
Yeah, because if they prevailed and slavery was still acceptable, they would say, hey, there was these Christians putting down the anti-slave, you know, they would claim the moral high ground for the opposite thing as well. And that's what we notice in a lot of these things, like when Christians go around and they eliminate everybody out of Europe that isn't a Christian, you know, like anybody, you know, Muslims are pushed out, atheists are pushed out, you know, it's really dangerous to be a non-Christian and a devout Christian as well. Very dangerous. If you were, you know, if you were a pagan, you were in trouble, right? Like, you could not just go and do your religion. So when they claim all of these things like, oh, we gave you universities, the Christians were the only people around. There's
Europe, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
there's a good reason.
The other day, somebody was going on, oh, Christians gave the world no, the Islamic world had universities hundreds of years before, and that's just in the post-Roman Empire era, right? Like, Alexander the Great set up what we would today consider to be universities. The Greeks had universities. The Egyptians had universities, called different ways and organized differently, but functionally that's what they were. So I don't know what the fuck you mean. Once again, Christians are the most recent to do the thing, not the first.
Well, they usually point to modern universities, you know, things like Oxford and you know, Cambridge and things like that, all the universities and institutions in Europe kind of thing. But you know, we have to point out that Christians were the only people around at the time. There's a reason why, say, the Cathars didn't found any institutions, right? You know, the Cathars quite famously wiped out completely by the Catholics, like genocided off the face of the earth by the Catholics. So yeah, they weren't going to be starting any universities or hospitals because they weren't around to do it. You know, this is a problem where your religion has violently persecuted any other people. And I'm not saying any other religion, I'm saying any other people. Like, if you're not devout enough, if you're Jewish, like, look at the Inquisitions. If you're Jewish, if you just don't go to church on Sunday, you were a target, right? And then you want to claim all the products of the society are yours. You were the only people around at the time because you absolutely destroyed everybody else, which is not a good thing.
This is actually a cult tactic. It's, you know, saying, I have repressed you and held you back, and despite all that, you've still managed to make some progress. I'm going to claim credit for that progress. It wouldn't have happened without my benevolent leadership, you know?
Yep.
I hear you with the yeast and dough analogy, very popular, appreciate what you're saying. But
That's from Jesus.
Consider this, right? This is Christ we're talking about. This is someone who can move mountains. This is God we're talking about.
Right.
You can look at the changes that Christ made and see that this man was not worried about upsetting establishments and making changes. You know, just in the 4th century, immediately, what they do is they ban crucifixion. A massive change. They ban, within a generation or two, gladiatorial combat. This is quite literally the way the economy. It's the way the economy worked, Glen. Yeah. So your point about them not being willing to make institutional changes.
Why should they have banned the gladiatorial games?
Sorry.
I dislike how he's interrupting, right? Like, because Christians did ban all of these things, but they didn't ban slavery. That's a really good point. That is a fantastic point, because if you're claiming, oh, they had to fit into society, then why wouldn't they fit into that society? And if you're, if you become the dominant religion, and I point this out to the, Greek Orthodox and the people who sort of say, hey, we had a empire of Christians during the Byzantines. The Byzantines, the head of the church was also the head of the state, right? The emperor of the Byzantine Empire was also the religious leader as well, and they still didn't ban slavery.
Uh-huh.
Right, they still had, this whole thing of, oh, Christians got rid of slaves. No, they didn't. Not for a long time. It seems to be, modern understanding of culture that's sort of, gotten rid of slaves, not Christians.
Was it a good thing that they banned the gladiatorial games?
Do you see what you're doing?
Was it a good thing?
I've told you that, like, I think it's a good thing, you think it's a good thing, that's all that matters.
Yeah. It's not all that matters, because I think you're smuggling in.
Remember,
I think you're Jesus smuggling.
No, the position that you made is that some things need to stay, okay? Look, God could have said slavery is wrong in the 4th century, could have said it, sorry, from the very beginning, could have done it in the Old Testament, but instead they took the Code of Hammurabi and made it worse. They instantiated it. Ephesians, you've got, like, Peter, they're making slavery worse. And then it stays perfectly fine throughout, including in the 4th century, where actually they make radical changes. For instance, as you boast, they banned infanticide. Amazing. This is a massive change that they make to the entire world. They established a theocracy. The idea that they didn't want to make major changes because God works in mysterious ways and actually it's going to take about 1,000 years until slavery becomes a problem, and when it does so, it's going to be suspiciously when the Enlightenment is about and Christianity is falling apart.
That's a pretty poor telling of history, but yeah.
This is a very, very silly narrative.
That is not a pretty poor telling of history, actually. It did coincide with the Enlightenment. And yeah, like I might not agree with sort of John Locke's natural rights kind of thing. Humans have rights by nature kind of stuff. I may not agree with that, but that was one of the spurs to, hey, even people who are slaves have certain rights kind of thing. And it would naturally lead on from that they have the right to be free as well. Don't forget his writings. Liberty, property, and what was the third thing? Life, liberty, and property, right? Like, so, like, when you consider that, you're like, well, how do slaves fare under that if every human has these rights? But I'm really sorry, but that is not a poor telling of it.
Narrative, right? but the thing is, though, Glenn, I'm giving you receipts, right? Jesus said, the imperial cult, you should reject it. The punishment for that was death because it's treason, right? So he's okay fighting establishments all day long.
Get what Stephen just said. Jesus says, reject the imperial cult. What is he most famous for? Give to Caesar what is Caesar. Give to God what is God's.
He still preached it.
Right?
Is that what he's most famous for?
I don't
Out of
think
all
so.
the things Jesus said and did, is that what he's most famous for, Glenn? Really?
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny though as well. You get a lot of Christians that are sort of tax protesters and don't like, sure.
Submit yourself to the imperial cult in a way that would get him in trouble with his own people. They were expecting him to say,
no. Fuck's sake, Glenn. Paying the taxes you are legally required to pay is not the same as submitting to the imperial cult and worshiping the emperor. These are not identical. They're not even the same category of thing. Ugh.
Because the Romans didn't really care if you worship their gods or not, as long as you paid your damn taxes. I mean, the Romans wanted tribute, and throughout their lands, they kind of let the people do what they want and sort of not try to stamp out their cultures, because that would cause them to have rebellions and stuff. But it was a case that, what they would crack down on when they weren't paying tribute.
Yeah, a lot of people seem very confused. They're like, the United States should try to emulate Rome because the empire left its mark on the world, yada, yada, yada. The thing of it is, what made Rome great was they figured out how to run a secular bureaucracy. They were like, we don't care what you believe.
Yeah.
You pay your taxes, we'll fix your roads. Period. And it
Mhm.
worked. They grew. There was a lot of conquest, to be sure. There were
Yeah.
rebellions, to be sure. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, so many rebellions. But it worked. It was a start. And
Yeah.
then they tried to do the monoculture thing. We need to make Rome great again and make Christendom mandatory, and everything immediately started to fall apart, you know? Maybe we should learn that lesson here in the US. I don't know.
What are you talking about? The US doesn't learn lessons. Come on now.
That's true. We don't know how
Yeah.
to read.
To the imperial cults, right? And Jesus says, just give to Caesar what is Caesar's, give to God what is God's, which is another gift of Christianity to the world in terms of it cashes out in the end as a separation of church and state. But here is another thing that Christianity has uniquely contributed to the world.
Yeah, but the idea, like, I've got no worries with different religions contributing in their own ways. Like, this is the thing about the atheist position. It's sociology. It's like, of course, religions make progress. Islam genuinely was good in the areas that it emerged. The point being is the doctrines, the revelations, and whether or not they make things worse in terms of the poison that I'm mentioning.
Okay,
you know.
So Christianity, is it a positive movement to go from?
I really think he should press him on this, because Islam did a lot in, say, especially in the golden age of Islam, for basically learning and progress and all of this stuff. But did it come with inherent poison? And of course, Glen thinks so, right? Like, he absolutely will say, yeah, no, Islam was bad for that society, just not his religion, right? He basically will ignore the bad things that come with his religion, but point them out with other religions. And that's what I find pretty obnoxious, to be honest with you.
Oh, for
pretty
sure.
obnoxious.
Yeah, because he's conceding the point, accepting his own bias and the special pleading that comes from it. So if you depersonalize Glen's argument, Glen agrees with Stephen. If you replaced Glen with an Islamic person with the same perspectives, views, and arguments, then he says Glen's religion is harmful and Islam is good. You know, so just remove the subject, and it's a total concession. Stephen wins hands down. There we go. Well, game over.
You know, I think you should press him a lot more on it. Like, you know, did all of the progress that Islam give mean that Islam was a good thing for you know, whatever it is?
Especially considering the rampant Islamophobia in Europe, England specifically right now, like a little bit of getting on the soapbox, especially at this stage in the debate when things are pretty much already over, and pushing back on this social just stupidity and fear, it might go a long way.
Yeah.
It might get them canceled again too. Who's to say? People do silly things.
Infanticide to the banning of infanticide. Is that a positive movement?
Yeah, for the third time, yes. But it's bad to go from.
Because why?
But again, you're just doing the moral argument again, and I've told you that neither of us need to ground it. You can't do
it.
You
need to ground it because you need to own the religious nature of your good and bad.
This is exactly the point I was making. Like, do you think that throughout all of human history, the reason that people cared for one another is because of the motif of Jesus?
People care for one another. Who is one another? Who is a proper object?
I want to take Glen. I want to take Glen out behind a woodshed and say, Glen, what is objective left and right? And he'll say, well, I mean, my left is over here and my right's over here. And I say, but my left is over here and my right is over here. So objectively, your right and left are backwards. How do you ground your right and left, Glen? Because this is exactly the same thing he's doing. There isn't an objective good and bad. There's what I perceive as good because it's good for me or people I care about. And there's what I perceive as bad because it's bad for me and people I care about. It is always inherently, exclusively subjective, like right and left.
Well, I think so. I mean, either that or, I mean, that's sort of just relative, you know, that's relative to who you are or where you're standing kind of thing. And I totally, you know, absolutely. But like, this is like, well, don't you think that people took care of one another? And he's sort of going, what does it mean for people to take care of one another? What the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is sort of a weird thing of, oh, I don't get what you're talking about. You know, like, dude, like, do you think that before, like, outside of Christianity, the ancient Greeks didn't take care of one another? What does it mean to take care of one another? What are you doing?
You can't do it without the Christendom.
Like, it really annoys me, this kind of, you know, and I'm going to go on a limb. I'm just going to say this kind of sort of willful ignorance of basic terms in a debate. You know, because it's like, you know, that if you can't understand what humans taking care of one another means, you shouldn't be in a debate at any level. Any level. Like, seriously, if you don't understand, this is what annoys me about, say, Jordan Peterson and stuff. You know, when you say, well, did Jesus, in fact, in reality, rise from the dead or not? And he's like, what does rise from the dead mean? It's like, dude, if you can't understand that, you don't deserve to be in any kind of... like, seriously, we know what it means. Like, holy crap. And I think it's just disingenuous is the word I was looking for. You're basically pretending ignorant when you know what he's saying. Like, come on, Glenn, you can't be this dumb.
Well, it is disingenuous. It is dishonest. It's despicable and disrepute honorable, to borrow the words of our second dumbest president. But do you think it's a distraction or a delay, or like, why do people throw out questions like this? Is it to buy time, or is it to try to find a way to change the subject, or like what is the motive behind these, do you reckon?
I don't know. I don't know. I think he's just sort of not wanting to answer the question, so instead he's attacking terms and trying to basically muddy the waters on the terms so he doesn't have to answer the question. That's what I think. Because obviously the answer to, did people care for each other before Christianity? The answer is yes. Absolutely. Like, that isn't even, you know, that's not even a discussion.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's how humans fucking evolved.
Yeah.
Object of my concern, okay? And the proper object of concern is very naturally my kin, those with whom I share genes, okay? And so kin selection would sort of say, absolutely, I should be compassionate towards these people. And then you might believe in group selection, and so maybe the group is a proper object of my compassion and concern, but the other guy, that level of compassion, absolutely is not natural. And this is why
not true.
Compassion is not natural?
I don't
Did I hear
know
that right?
what he's saying. Yeah, I'll rewind it just a tad and...
the guy, that level of compassion, absolutely is not natural. And this is why Nietzsche thought that Christian...
My guy, look, I think that you... wow. My dude, like, people go out and rescue dolphins on the beach. They're not even our species, and people still try to save them. Like, seriously, but he's sort of saying, hey, back before Christianity, you know, no, it was just families and tribes and they never got along. My guy, civilizations existed before Christianity. Are you aware of this? Are you aware of this? Like, what the hell?
Like, Christ existed in a civilization?
What the hell? I think he's basically saying, oh, yeah, you care for your family, but anybody outside, you need God or Christians or Jesus for that, or, you know, some kind of Christianity for that. Absolutely not. The Roman Empire, with all of its sort of, you know, legions of troops and the brotherhood of these people, it didn't just spring from nowhere. We have always, it is always a common thing that cooperation with others allows you to build civilizations, whereas not cooperating doesn't. I don't know where he's getting this from. I really don't know. That it's somehow not natural. What do you mean? This guy's weird. I don't know why that way, cooperation between people wouldn't be natural. It's unnatural to cooperate with others. Weird.
Christianity was poison. He thought Christianity was poison. He called it, humanity's nausea, because it was the Christians who were saying that you should love your enemies and care for the weak. But why should we pity the weak? Pity, on the whole, thwats the law of evolution, which is the law of selection.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No.
Weird claim.
The weak. No, because humans are weak. We're inherently weak. Right? We're incredibly weak. We're very squishy. Like if you compare a cat with the same amount of mass to a human, we are underpowered. But when you get a whole bunch of us together and work together, like he thinks that weak is kind of like just pure strength. Right? Like just pure strength. No. Humans didn't survive because we're naturally strong. We survived because we're naturally cunning and intelligent and strategic. Like they chased animals off of cliffs and stuff. Like it, and there were people that could track animals. Like what is like you're sitting there going, oh, but they're weak. But there's other things that make them very useful. Hell, the guy around the fire telling stories may be weak, but there's other reasons why he is essential for the group. I mean, what he just doesn't. Mind blown. Another theist that does not know anything about evolution at all.
It's not just evolution though. Like he's undermining Christianity, because Jesus's whole thing was being weak and submissive, and the Roman Empire was so much stronger, and he just turned the other cheek. That sort of thing.
Yeah. But I think that yes, in a way it was, but in a way, sort of being having solidarity with weak people makes them stronger than the strong. Right? Because there's a hell of a lot more weak people than there are strong in any of these sort of totalitarian or sort of uneven power structures, right? Whenever you get these power structures where some people are in charge, the people down the bottom, there's going to be a lot more of them. So there is a strength in having a whole bunch of weak people against the strong. So yeah, it's so bad. It's so bad.
I think those things only came up with Christianity.
Nietzsche did. Nietzsche absolutely did.
Do you, Glen, think this? Like, are you willing to make such a profound statement as to say that you think that basically all things good in the world are Christian?
No, but I'm saying the scaling of that idea, and the idea that we now think that that's a good thing rather than a foolish thing, has come through Christianity.
With Hammurabi having...
What? He's basically saying that, hey, empathy comes through Christianity, or basic empathy for other people comes through Christianity, even though Christianity persecuted a hell of a lot of people over the years. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Inquisitions did happen, right? I'm not suddenly, tripping out or something. I'm not having false memories. Inquisition did happen, yes.
I seem to recall something along those lines in my history books, but
wow, this is wild. This is absolutely wild. It seems like the longer this debate goes, the more grandiose claims that Glen is making here.
Better laws than the Bible on slavery. Do you think that we should be praising Hammurabi, not Christianity?
I don't think we should be praising Hammurabi. The king is outside of the law. It is this hierarchy of being. You've got your nobles, you've got your commoners, you've got your slaves. You've asked a question. You've got your nobles, you've got your commoners, you've got your slaves. It is a caste system, right? And actually Harari in this book does a great job of saying, in about 1776 BC, Hammurabi has his code, in which there is this caste system. In 1776 AD, there is the Declaration of Independence, in which we have been endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And
What?
There's a caste system there too, Glenn.
Yeah.
Left out of that declaration, noticeably, slaves,
Yeah.
Native Americans, women, people who, even white people who don't own property, and there's no such thing as white people at the time. Like, Irish people aren't white, Italian people aren't white, Eastern, like, oh my goodness. Who's endowed with these rights by the divine creator? Just the chosen people, isn't it? Because it's a fucking caste system.
Yeah, and I will notice,
born into the right families.
and I will notice that it says all men are created equal. All men, not women, because they didn't think women were equal. Christian morality.
Harari here says, well, both are mythological, both are story-based. The Americans got the idea of rights and equality from Christianity that told us that there's such a thing as God and souls and eternity. But for us, says Harari, who do not believe in God,
there's nothing about rights in the Bible, aside from what's due to God or what's due to Caesar. Like, that's obligations. Rights comes from Enlightenment thinkers who are saying, you know, it's a natural right. You are... Nature has created you in such a way, engineered your evolution, if you want to use those fancy naturalist terms, to require freedom. And so you have the right to freedom, for instance, you know?
Well, I mean, even a lot of the Enlightenment thinkers thought that they were natural rights. They were inherent rights that kind of came with being a living human being.
Yes,
I get you. Yeah, I don't know why. Like, but he's trying to push it back to, well, where do these rights come from? And that isn't the topic of the debate. The topic of the debate is, does religion poison everything? And it's like, well, look, Stephen doesn't have to say where these rights come from. It's not, does naturalism poison everything? That's not the topic of the debate. So he's just trying to sort of shift a burden of proof onto Stephen that not only he doesn't have that burden, that's got nothing to do with the debate at all.
And souls or eternity, what on earth does equality mean? Okay, is equality one of the things that you're going to put into the pre-religious well? And if so, where are you going to ground it?
Again, you're asking the grounding question.
I totally am.
And I've told you that since you haven't grounded it, I'm not going to do it either.
Oh, I have grounded it. Like
no, you haven't.
Equally in the image of God.
You said that goodness is God's nature. I asked you, does God choose his nature? Because you haven't escaped the horn.
Love, right? He is.
It's not morality. So when God commands, for example, the conquest of Canaan, and he says to his people, listen,
there you go.
I want you to go on in, and I want you to murder all of the men and all of the women. I want you to take the little boys, I want you to murder them. But all of the little girls that have not slept with a man, keep them for yourself. Like, is that just moral because it's God's nature?
That is a very long conversation. Part of that conversation.
And it's a conversation he doesn't want to have. It's a conversation he does not want to have. And this is what I pointed out. Well, this is what I pointed out earlier about the euthyphro, the trap that comes with it when you appeal to God's nature. And I sprung this exact trap on Wi-Fi Gospel when he said, oh, well, it's God's nature that we get morality from. And it's like, well, and I asked the question, do things act in accordance with their nature? Yes. Right? So if God's nature is moral and he commands, he acts in a way commanding people to slaughter another tribe, then that is a moral thing to do. And yeah, you can say, well, that's not moral when a human does it. Okay, fine, but that means you're not getting your morals from God's nature. You're getting it from somewhere else. You can't be.
Right.
Because
it's either not from God or God is not moral.
Right.
You have to pick one. You have to.
Yep.
And that's Glenn's issue too. But
yep.
I am known for my tangents. I am known for my love of nuance. This is not actually a long conversation.
No, it's not.
He either has a reason to justify why having prepubescent sex slaves is moral, or he doesn't.
Right.
The odds are he doesn't.
No,
but
he
if
doesn't.
he says so, he has to cede a huge chunk of ground.
Yes. So he is instead, and I've noticed this all throughout this debate. Tough question. Oh, well, that will take a long time, and it's all this. No, it won't. All you have to do is either say that is within God's nature, or it's not.
And certainly not the totality of that conversation, is there's militaristic hyperbole that's going on there in the same passages where God says, wipe them out completely. Oh, and
it's your book that you say is history. Where's the hyperbole, Glenn?
Well, that's one of the weird things that sort of happened maybe, I think it was about 5 years ago or something. Christians started to say, oh, but those massacres, not all of them, just a segment of Christians, they were just poetic language and, didn't actually happen kind of thing. And it's like, it's really weird for you to claim this book as a sort of the history of your people and, Christianity and the people that came before them and all of the history. And they even noted down how many cows they got, how many people they got. They listed down the spoils, and you're saying, well, it didn't really happen. That's just they had a list of stuff they took. They had a scorecard, my guy. Like, what are you talking about?
Oh, well, when it says you have to bring 2 doves to the temple, one for the altar and one for the priests, it's poetic. These inventories, these lists, these ingredients of how to make the sacred fucking oatmeal. It's all poetic. Yeah, that's the ticket.
Yeah, I mean that's like, oh, we didn't sell arms to Saddam Hussein. It was all just hyperbole and poetry. My guy, we've got the receipts. Like we literally, you've got in your book what they brought back. Wow.
I wonder if he falls back on this kind of stuff because this is what he does to his own parishioners when they bring up similar questions. Like if he gets a clever kid in Sunday school who's like, what about this fucking weird ass passage about preteen sex slaves? Oh, well, it's just poetry for some reason. Like, what are we learning from that? Who's to say the ways of God are mysterious? Like, does he try this shit on his own parishioners? And so it's just his default fallback.
Probably.
But when confronted with somebody who's actually read the damn book, he's not used to that one. He's not ready.
Yeah, but I mean, look, it's kind of funny because he'll tell his parishioners that, and then you'll encounter them in the wild, as it were, and they sound like idiots. They will sound like idiots because they will go, oh, but it's just all a bit of fanciful language kind of thing, and you go, look, they had what amounts to an inventory, like an actual tally card of what they brought back from the damn places. Why include that? And then they start to sound like idiots. And that's why Seth Andrews sort of said religion made me talk like an idiot, because if you actually try to use this against somebody who is well versed with the Bible, it sounds really foolish.
It doesn't even have to be a Bible thing either. Like these double standards and special pleadings, we saw them in this very live stream's chat section earlier.
Yep.
We had that one fellow who, whenever anything good happened anywhere in the world, credit to the church. The church has done such wonders. But as soon as you bring up the harm done by the church, oh, no, that's not the church. That's a few specific individuals who crossed some lines.
Right. Yeah.
Same thing.
A few bad apples. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Intermarry with them afterwards. Like, don't intermarry with who afterwards. The militaristic hyperbole was well understood in the day. I think that is one answer to the question. I think another answer to the question is...
Sorry, how does that answer the question?
Because I don't think it is putting a sword to little boys and girls and
so
all that kind of thing.
You don't think God meant that command?
I think there are idioms and the way of understanding ancient texts
So he
is to understand how language is
explicitly
used.
sets rules. He tells you to go and do this.
And
Yeah.
then, in the same way that a sports team might wipe the floor with another sports team, that doesn't mean that they literally wipe the floor with another sports team.
Who called that one? Who called that one? Noise ending. The hyperbole argument frequently precedes a sports ball analogy. Oh,
Wow.
nicely done.
Who called that? I gotta find that.
It's noise ending. It's the
Noise
third one on my...
ending?
Yeah.
Wow, good call. Noise ending. Wow. Nice work. What a champion.
Prophecy.
Yeah.
Behold.
Oh, I'm a believer. You're a prophet. You're absolutely a prophet. Nice. There it is. Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Like, you know what? At least, look, I'll give credit to William Lane Craig. At least he doesn't go in for that kind of stuff and just leans into, it was a great blessing that all of these children were killed. You know, like, at least he doesn't go, oh, well, when it says in the Bible that they were commanded to slaughter the women and children and goats and, you know, everything, including all of the animals, he doesn't say, yeah, it's just a fanciful metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
You understand the idiom,
do you-
I understand the idiom.
do you do this
when you go
with-
back 3,000 years,
Yeah. Do you do this with Leviticus as well, with slaves? When it says you can
do
have
what?
slaves, get them from the lands around you, Leviticus 25,
don't
pass
know.
them down as property.
I don't know what I do with Leviticus 25. But
Why don't you take it as actually
mean-
your church is taking it for almost all of its history?
well, what I do with
7th century. Did they stop it then? Slavery. Christianity.
Would you have stopped slavery in the 7th century, and if so, on what grounds?
You see, this is so peculiar. I'm just asking whether or not Christianity did it in the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th. It didn't. 8th, no. 9th, no.
Around about
10th, no.
around about 8th, 9th. Around about 8th, 9th in France, it starts to melt away with the sacramental long, slow burn of abolitionism. By the way, what are the irreligious doing in these moments?
The irreligious, where are they?
Getting burned at the damn stake, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, they're being, like, you mean the irreligious, like, who? We don't know about them because they're slaughtered. Even the religious that just don't agree with the Catholic Church. For instance, I mentioned the Cathars earlier. They held up that women were equal to men. How dare they? That's blasphemy. Right.
Heresy,
Now,
even.
today we would say, yeah, they were really, the Catholic Church genocided that entire sect of Christianity because they treated women with more respect than they were due. That's one of the reasons. There were a few others, but that was one of them.
I
Right.
want to ask Glenn if he's wondering what the non-believers in Europe were doing in the 9th century. I wonder what he imagines the Native Americans in Europe were doing in the 9th
Right.
century, or the servants of the Han Dynasty in Europe were doing in the 9th century.
Yeah.
What about the Tutsis? All of the Tutsis in Europe. They're not in Europe, Glenn. It's all Christian. You killed everyone else. No one else is there. Fucking hell.
Yeah. What were the non-believers doing? Yeah, probably being tortured by inquisitors would be my guess, and then put to death for blasphemy and non-belief. That would be my guess. But hey, let's find their writing. Oh wait, they were killed. They don't have any writings. Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah.
They're being
What is
killed,
every
Glenn.
other culture on the planet doing?
They're being
in these
executed.
centuries?
They're
Right?
being executed because your religion is so loving and so tolerant and so sweet that they had to either hide who they were and operate as if they're Christian, or they were killed. They were ostracized from communities. They went the way of Giordano Bruno.
Oh, yes,
We don't
Giordano
talk about
Bruno.
Bruno.
Well done. Well done. Brings in the Bruno. Wow, he just got... Hey, I think that counts as a hitch slap, quite frankly. That's a hitch slap, right? They went the way of Giordano Bruno. Yeah. And what did he get burnt at the stake for?
I believe it was suggesting that the sun might be the center of the universe.
I believe it was like, wasn't it heliocentrism?
Yeah, that's what I was
the
getting
Earth
at.
went round the sun.
Yeah, so instead of the Earth being the center of the universe, the sun is the center of the universe. Because we didn't have an idea of what the universe was at the time.
Yeah, and that's suggesting it, right? That's suggesting it. Could you imagine if you were out and about, passing in your town square and you said, "Oh, well, I don't believe that God is real. I think you guys just made it up." Like, you would measure your lifespan in moments. Like, you would be dragged off.
So his official conviction for heresy included his belief in an infinite universe, asserting the existence of multiple inhabited worlds, denying the divinity of Christ, denying the divinity of the Virgin Mary, and practicing magic. He was also considered impenitent because he refused to recant his views after 7 years of imprisonment.
Yeah, so the atheists and non-believers were in prison or dead.
So what he actually taught was that the stars are other suns and may have other planets around them, and the Earth was not the center of the universe. That's literally it. He just taught standard, like not even all of modern science, but just like basic first grader astronomy. Those stars, they're other suns. Some have planets.
But I love what Stephen's doing here. He's really pushing back on the idea that everything good comes from Christianity, just because we have the remnants of good things that came from a time where Christianity wiped out anybody that didn't believe in the same thing as Christianity. Like, it's not, and I might add that things really started to speed up when it was accepted that you could not believe in Christianity and still be okay. That was the Enlightenment, my guy. That was the Enlightenment. Where you had people like Voltaire running around and Hume and...
Look at Helen's comment.
Alan's comment? Yeah, and we know Bruno's correct because no one would ever die for a lie, which means everyone dies for is true. Yeah. And that's the biblical apologetic of why it has to be true, because, the apostles died for it, which we don't have solid evidence for. It's just church tradition. I think there's one that we know definitely died. There was another one that was stabbed in Africa, and we have no idea if that was because of his religious beliefs or not. We don't know if they had a chance to recant before they died. We have no idea. No idea whatsoever. So...
who was, I don't think his execution for the heresy of his Trinitarian heresies was right at all, and it's something that the church can say, okay, that is a stain on the conscience of the church. So an irreligious person doing something equivalently evil centuries ago, is that a stain on anyone's conscience?
Depends on your moral framework.
It does, which is why I'm talking about your moral framework.
I know, but you're failing to understand that that is not a prerequisite for this conversation. If all that matters is that you and I agree...
we need to agree on what poison is.
What we need to... Yeah, so for you and I, for instance, say that slavery is...
Yeah, I mean, I would say that totalitarianism poisons everything, right?
Oh, yeah.
I would say that monarchy poisons everything. I would say a lot of things run along the same lines. So if you're talking about... some warlord back in, the heyday of civilization, I would say, yeah, that would poison everything, right? Having one ultimate authority that ruled over subjects with an iron will and an iron hand, yeah, that would poison everything. But you're basically saying, oh, but what is it? It's tu quo quo, isn't it? You're basically pointing out that Christianity has done all of these horrible things, and he's saying, but other people have done horrible things too.
Right. And Stephen is actually letting him off the hook a little bit here by saying, listen, we don't have to argue over this. We just have to agree slavery is bad. We got that. Cool. Let's move the fuck on. When Stephen could be saying, you're claiming your morality is divine in origin, and yet the executors of the divine authority on earth have a stain on the church's conscience. How is that possible if your morality is what you say it is?
And I will just say, it doesn't matter the carpet cleaner you get onto the Catholic. I don't think those stains are coming out at this point. Like, I think it really is minimizing to sort of say, oh, well, all of the crusades, the horrible way we treated women, condoms in Africa that we prevented, and the AIDS crisis that we basically established, the horrendous things that we did to all of these minority groups, the hiding of priests that have done horrible things, all of this stuff together, it's just a moral stain. It's just a stain. Dude, like, this is the point that I was trying to make in my debate against Wilson. It's like, you're pointing to, oh, well, we did all of these universities. There is a river of blood throughout these times that the Catholic Church and the rest of Christianity was directly responsible for. And you're sort of saying, oh, yeah, but we gave to the poor. Does one outweigh the other? Like, does one really outweigh the other? And don't get me wrong, I'm happy if, Christianity is doing good things for society, sure. But just doing a few good things does not outweigh, does not mean you can minimize all of the horrible stuff that that this thing has done. And I think, if he's sort of saying, oh, it was a stain, a little stain.
It's not, though. It's the system. It's the whole system. Like, you were talking about slavery because it's an obvious thing everybody can agree to, but like at no point did the church have a revelation that serfdom is wrong, that keeping people illiterate and bonded to the land as property for their whole lives, maybe that's not cool. Maybe that doesn't glorify God or something, And,
the role of the religion in that institution of telling peasants that they were born into that system as a desire for God that was their place, as assigned by God, as workers of the land, while God has chosen this complete arsehole to be the king, that use of the religion to reinforce that, the peasants shouldn't revolt because God has chosen them to be peasants and he's chosen this complete monster to be king. There is a culpability in that. They were using religion to reinforce the feudal system, and that, you deserve to be a peasant. And being a peasant was holy. It was a sign of your piousness.
It's not that God belief poisons everything. I mean, you can make that argument too. But that's a different thing. It's that religion poisons everything because it's the religion installed into a person's heart like a virus corrupting their operating system that makes them believe it's their lot in life to suffer in the way the higher ups closer to God have dictated.
Right. Yeah.
Not necessary. It's only religion can penetrate a person's heart like that and convince them they deserve the horrible things done to them.
Yeah.
That's why it poisons everything, because every single thing that person ever does is contaminated with that taint.
Yep.
I don't think it is poison.
Sorry, you don't think slavery is bad?
For you. I don't think slavery is bad for you.
I'm telling you, I think it's a bad thing.
On what basis?
It doesn't matter what my basis is. I wouldn't want to enslave you. I could use this is the problem. There's so many different ways that it can be cashed out. And if you were to ask why, you would end up in the same situation, but actually better grounding, because it would actually be in rationale than what you've got with the Euthyphro dilemma, which is to say that philosophers know this, Glenn. They've been doing it for a long time. It's why they don't waste time on these kinds of propositions, because they understand that what's needed is simply an agreement on what is good and what is bad. Do you agree that women should be able to teach men?
Yeah.
Okay, do you have a problem with the fact that your church has practiced not doing that for all of its time? Is that poison?
No, I don't think that's poison at all.
I think it is. I think the Catholic Church has been stringent, and this has been a problem for a lot of people when it comes to the Catholic Church. As we moved in, they still don't allow women as priests. They still say you cannot be a priest as a woman. And a lot of the more progressive ones, Anglican Church, I believe, has allowed them, and other denominations have allowed them. But
Anglicans just had the Archbishop of Canterbury, first time ever, woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Catholic Church does not. Women cannot be priests. So how can you say there is an equality in your religion between men and women, where men can be the representative of God, but women can't? You can't claim there is a equality of gender there. You can't claim an equality. And you might say, hey, that's how God likes it, but you can't claim there's equality there. You can't.
It's most peculiar. It's I don't know. There's so many things about it that hurt my head.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like the Southern Baptists recently held a conference because a couple of churches allowed women pastors. Like, they're not even the head pastors. They're just pastors who happen to be women. And the Baptists got together and they're like, yep, we're cutting off those churches.
Okay.
No
Right-hand
reprimand, no ultimatum. They're out. They're no longer part of our conference. Because
right-handed Sith have women can't be priests, but they can be priestesses. Like, technically, you are correct, which is the best form of correct.
Hermes approves.
Yeah, Hermes approves. Yep.
And I don't understand why. Okay, if a society, you're a consequentialist,
no,
in terms of ethically moral anti-realist.
Nope.
Does it matter? Does it matter? This is his entire point the entire way through. If you're basically saying, like, what he's doing is basically going, for the proposition that religion poisons everything, he's basically going, well, your moral system poisons everything as well. Like, that's why he wants hold of his moral system. Why doesn't he just defend his own position, not attack a position that's got...
way is fucking useless.
Yes.
Even could go, sure, maybe it does, but you're admitting yours does, and so I win. Good job. Correct. I guess.
Yep.
You're not an anti-realist.
No. I'm actually ambivalent. I'm ambiguous. I find some of the theories intriguing, some of them not.
Okay.
You could describe me as agnostic.
He is a moral agnostic. Okay, I don't think agnostic works in that sort of thing. He's an igmoralist.
Yeah.
An igmoralist. They don't think that it's worth the discussion. An igmoralist, they simply ignore it, basically, which is just fascinating.
Now that you mention it, I kind of like that position, because I'm like, it doesn't actually matter. Like, are your morals good? Do they produce better outcomes? Then do them. If they do not, then fuck off. I don't care if there's some platonic form of morality you're drawing upon for them.
Okay, cool. I mean, I'm not... I also think that, he'd have quite the absolute right to say, hey, my morals is not what this is about. Like, you've got to defend Christianity. You have to. That is the title of the debate. It's not whether, moral relativism poisons everything. And even if moral relativism did poison everything, it doesn't let Christianity off the hook, because it does. That's just saying, hey, but you do it too. Which tacitly admits that religion poisons everything.
But you need to figure out what to do at some stage. So
no, I don't. I just need to agree with
everybody. I mean, just to live life.
No, I genuinely think it's like epistemology. If you was to ask me about epistemology, the study of what we know, like most philosophers, I just genuinely don't think that there is a good theory that works. right? A lot of it just grounds out in, is it coherentism or foundationalism? It becomes murky and it becomes intriguing, and then you build your propositions on top of it.
Okay, but then for you, what is wrong with a caste system? And there's nobles, there's commoners, there's slaves. It seemed to work well for Hammurabi. If you could be convinced that a society's GDP would go through the roof if we just actually...
But it won't. But it won't. That's the thing. It's like saying, well, what if you have slaves? The GDP will go through, but it doesn't.
No, and that's a very modern lens, a very capitalist lens.
Yeah.
Like, no one in the 17th century, no one gave a fuck about GDP. That wasn't even a thing at the time.
Correct.
Like, people cared about their individual fortunes, but no one was thinking about, like, well, I mean, how much per capita are we bringing in, though? You know, that's not how that works.
You know what's really good for the flourishing and the GDP of a society? Not having upheavals, right? Having a stable system where people don't, say, rebel because they're the lowest caste and they're being treated like crap. That's exactly what it's aimed at. That's what liberalism is kind of aimed at. It's kind of saying, well, if we treat everybody as equal, there'll be less upheaval. That's really good for GDP, my guy. Because something that's really bad for GDP is people rebelling against the system that is oppressing them.
Mm-hmm. And we've seen that time and time. I mean, literally every single Republican presidency since the frickin' Cold War. You know, we cut taxes on the rich, we raise taxes on everybody else, we go to war in the Middle East, and the economy fucking tanks every single time. Yeah, unrest is bad for GDP. We have evidence of that. We've tested it for science. It's repeatable. The same conclusion every time.
Science. I've got a holy book. What do I need science for?
Right.
Did Hammurabi today? Would you say, sure,
no, because Hammurabi is now outdated, right? We've moved on. We've changed.
But
it's
on what basis?
Objectively better than what Christ taught.
Oh, objectively better means you've got a meta-ethical theory, but objectively better based on what?
We both agree. And that's all that's required. You know,
do you remember we might agree, but okay, as a society wants to run the slavery experiment.
Slavery is okay. That's quite the agreement.
Yeah.
There might be one person at the back that's like, I want to put my hand up.
Thank God for abolitionism, right? Thank God for abolitionism, okay? Because it was a religious...
Thank God for abolitionism.
I want to say he's not getting it, but he's faux not getting it, because he gets it, but he's trying to fight against it anyway because he doesn't know where else to go. He's cornered at this point.
Yeah, and like again, you know, okay, thank God for abolitionism, but don't we have to thank God for the anti-abolitionists as well?
Thank God for the slavery so the abolitionists would have something to do.
That's a really good point, Ems. That's a really good point. Thank God for the abolitionists, but God was the one that approved slavery in the first place. And it was rife throughout Christendom. So presumably God could have stopped slavery at any point. Why didn't he just do it a few centuries earlier? Stop all that pain and suffering.
A lot of people make the argument, you know, he's got 10 commandments. 4 of them are worship me harder. Why wasn't one of them no slavery? The same way there's no lying, no coveting your neighbor's wife, all this shit right in the 10 commandments. But why do there even have to be 10? If he cared about it, he could have made an 11th commandment or a 12th or a 13th or whatever.
Yeah. Why not? Hell, make 15. Then he could be the Mel Brooks thing out of History of the World where he drops one. Never mind. I'm just trying to reference Mel Brooks because seriously, that was a great movie.
Movement from first to last, and it was something that has contributed. It's what we all consider now to be a universal good. If we'd asked that question in the 6th century,
11th century.
In 11th century,
Because this movement that you're mentioning is taking its sweet time.
In 11th century, would people consider that's wrong? In the 12th century, would people the fact that we can consider it so obviously wrong is a religious contribution to things. Religion does not poison everything.
So what I've given you is doctrines. I've quoted Leviticus, I've quoted the Old Testament, I've quoted the New Testament. I've shown you exactly what Augustine, all the way through to Aquinas, used. Aquinas went one step further, by the way. You know, this is what, like 13th century or so? And what he does is he says, you know what, not only is the church absolutely correct on slavery, I'm going to one-up it. I'm not just going to give you a theological argument, I'm going to give you a philosophical argument. And that's what he does. So it's etched in even further, and only when the Enlightenment emerges, when we move forward, when Christianity cracks because of the Black Plague, because of the schisms, because of the Protestant Reformation, when it loses power, that is when Christians start going, maybe this slavery thing isn't right, but look at what they do. They do what Glen has done, and that is they appeal to vague verses and the motif of Jesus, because they don't have the receipts. They have to remove the doctrines, remove the dogma, remove the revelations in order to become palatable. This is the humanity coming through the religion.
Okay. People can judge whether that's happening or not.
Exactly it. In fact, Stephen's painting a compelling picture that I'd like to expand on a little bit more. The slavery never cracked until the church started to crumble, and suddenly you've got Protestants running around saying, hey, those assholes in the big expensive church, they think you deserve to be slaves. We're saying God, like it says in the New Testament, shall set you free. So forget their church, join our church and fight for freedom, be free men. And all of a sudden the Catholics are looking around going, oh shit, they're going to use the slavery against us. We better change our position really quick, you know? Or we're going to lose all our parishioners.
And there was Christians on the other side. Like, you can point all you want to, oh, most of the abolitionists were Christians. Yeah, most of the people were Christians at that point. But you've got to also point out that most of the people opposing the abolitionist movement were Christians. Like, it's not, the Ku Klux Klan, right, did not burn Buddhist symbols on people's lawns. There's a reason why they burnt the cross. It's because they were Christians. Devoutly so. And the arguments they used was that God decided that black people weren't equal. So you can't just ignore that. There was atheists and free thinkers and, you know, all kinds of secular people in the abolitionist movement. Oof.
You asked for doctrines. Okay, let's give you the Imago Dei, which I think has been perhaps the most transformative dogma, if you want to call it that, in human history. I think it was at the foundation of the birth of charity and the scaling of charities. It was at the foundation of why infanticide was considered wrong. I'd love to know if you think infanticide is still wrong or not. Like, if people wanted to kill disabled babies, yes or no?
Yeah, I think that's wrong.
You think it's wrong? On what basis?
We're going to do the basis thing again.
Yeah.
We're going to have to sit down for another debate, meta-ethics, aren't we?
All right. The image of God was at the foundation of that. It was at the foundation of abolitionism. It was the foundation of the modern scientific method. Why are Homo sapiens able to do science and somehow plumb the mysteries of the cosmos? Well,
we're just getting into the precept business. Well, why does logic even work? God, checkmate, atheists.
Right. It really is verging on that, isn't it? Like, he's not
claiming everything.
Yeah,
like
he's not.
The Chinese didn't have science before Jesus. Fuck off, Glen.
Yeah, we still use, like, we still refer to some of the Chinese star charts from the early dynasties today. They were so good at astronomy. Guess what? They didn't have Jesus or Christianity or much real religion at all. I mean, you might argue they kind of had a form of, you know, spirits and things, but, you know, my guy, what the hell? It's so wild.
Must have some kind of correspondence with the deeper laws of nature. The image of God is that kind of dogma that I think is actually not poison, and it's the sort of thing that you require in order to get to, what did you call it, decency, love, compassion, and hope. What I don't think you get from Hello, My Fellow Apes is decency, love, compassion, and hope. And as T.S. Eliot...
What? Why not?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Like, hello, decency, my fellow, companionship, friendship,
Yeah.
you know, family. Like, what exactly is the problem? The only thing missing in that statement is hope, and it's an introduction. So,
Yeah,
what do you mean?
I don't know. It's so weird. It's so strange. I don't, you know, yeah, Stranglewood, I'm with you. It's Joel Case all over again. Yeah, I'm with you. I absolutely am with you. Yes. It's very reminiscent of what Joel does. You can't have
Right.
logic, you can't have these things. And, you know, for them to say, oh well, you know, I've talked to Joel Case, and I've sort of said, you know, like he's sort of claimed science comes from Christianity and, you know, Christian thing. And I've said, well, what about the Greeks doing science? You know, like they were doing science way before Christianity, before, you know, and he's like, yeah, but they weren't doing it the correct way, which is with God. And it's like, what the hell are you talking about?
The fact
Like,
you get repeatable results, it's just an accident.
It's just an accident. You know, it's so wild how these people think. There's something in their brain that just goes, no, I have to believe that logic, that decency, that love comes from the God in the face.
Excuses. It's patently excuses, because if the mythology was real, you wouldn't need science, because A, you could do miracles, the Bible says so, and B, God could just tell you how chemistry works. You wouldn't need to do experiments.
Well, I'd just like to pose to him, like, do you think in ancient China, or better yet, like someplace completely removed, do you think in Age of Discovery America, that the Native American tribes didn't have any decency, compassion, love, and what was the last thing he said? Or hope, right? Do you really think that Native Americans before the colonizers had come were just walking around with no hope whatsoever? No, they didn't love anybody. They, you know, are you serious?
Well, I mean, in fairness to Glen, they had no jobs. They had no, you know, real estate. They,
Oh,
you know,
is that
none of these
required?
concepts.
Is that required? Because I'm pretty sure the hippies didn't have any jobs or real estate either, but they had a lot of love for
In fairness, I have
lot of
neither
people.
jobs nor real estate either, unless you want to count YouTube. But like,
Well, that's a job, kind of. Look, we pretend it's a job, okay? It's the insights. We call it a job, and that's basically
I
that.
mean,
You know, we're just
I
fooling
do
everybody.
show up every day, so there's that.
That is true. That is absolutely 100% true. But this is the absurdity of what he's suggesting, that you need Christianity to have any of these things. And you know, I you know, he can backtrack it, and he probably will, that Mott and Bailey, to say, oh well, it's not Christianity you need, but it comes from God, so you need God. And even though the Native Americans back, you know, 1,000 years ago, they didn't know they had God, they had, you know, it becomes this unfalsifiable, uninvestigable claim that doesn't seem to have any basis in reality. You know, like, it's just nonsense. But him to claim that they need, like, seriously, he's now claiming that people that don't have Christianity, they just don't have any hope or love or any of this stuff. It's absurd. It's absurd.
He said, you know, if we remove from the word humanity everything religion has taught us, we will be left with only a clever, mischievous, adaptable ape. It is.
I'm sorry. Don't you think that like chimpanzees have hopes and love and decency by their own standards? I don't, like, this is the thing. It's I don't know. It's just weird. I don't know, like, because we can't really investigate whether other apes have these things because we're not them, but they seem to. And when we teach, like, sign language, they seem to have hopes, you know. there was a gorilla that was taught sign language,
A
and
few
they
of them, weren't
asked for something. Yeah.
Coco,
Yeah.
perhaps?
So yes, Coco learned. She had a pet kitten, and I'm really sorry. Brace yourselves. This is heartbreaking. So Coco signed the word sad when her pet kitten, All Ball, passed away in 1984. So Coco, who learned over 1,000 signs, also signed sad when given a stuffed toy instead of a real kitten. Oh, that is heartbreaking. Followed the death of her kitten, All Ball. Coco signed sad and frown and cry and produced human-like crying sounds. Like I don't know. Like he is now reducing animals to being robots that don't have any of these emotions like love and hope and feeling. They clearly do, Glenn.
Right. He's using this Imago Dei thing as some great thing, but in
Yeah.
fact, he's demonstrating the fucking poison. He's saying, oh, humans are the best thing ever. In fact, only humans can do these things that we associate with humanity, when that's just not true.
Like, think about it. You have a dog. Do you think it doesn't hope to go for a walk? Like when you pick up the lead? Are you serious? Like, I don't know what's wrong with these people. Like, and what's wrong with being a really clever ape? Or even a gentle and modern ape, as Erica would say.
Yeah.
Shout out to Gutsit Gibbon. What's wrong with that? You know, it's kind of this, well, animals are not capable of these emotions. They just, you know, no, come on now. Let's not do this.
Religion that gives you your sense of the human. You're trying to think that our concept in the year of our Lord 2026 of humanity and what is humane, you want to think that that's obvious, natural, universal, or self-evident. I'm here to tell you it is not. It is the contribution of some profoundly religious ideas, and to call them poison is to poison the well.
Did you just say Christianity is why we can do science?
I say the Imago Dei was at the foundation of the modern scientific revolution.
Spell that out for me. Like, is it required is the thing I'm trying to request here. Because there's a very different claim between saying, and this is what I've noticed with your thesis in general, it's a very different claim from saying the modest thing of Christianity has profoundly influenced our society. Yes, I know.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no questioning that. But I think that what Stephen's doing is pointing out it's influenced it in good ways, and it's influenced it in bad ways. Right, like we've got to be aware of that. It's had a huge influence. Yeah, it has. I wouldn't doubt that. But you're sort of saying, hey, without Christianity, we wouldn't have science. That is absolute nonsense. Like the ancient Greeks were doing science. Like, stop. That's nonsense. I'm sorry.
It's trivial, right? Of course it's true.
It's not trivial.
Saying that
it's not trivial.
Yes, it is. It's like saying that Islam has influenced the Middle East. Well, duh, right? But the bigger claim here is that it's required, that it's necessary, that it's unthinkable is the word that you've used.
Well, Islam's also contributed a lot to science as well. Let's not forget that. Yeah, like this whole thing about Christianity is the only religion that's contributed to science. No, absolutely not. India and Hinduism has contributed to science. Like, let's not pretend it's the only one doing it. Oof.
Yeah. So, for instance, you could take the slavery aspect again. Do you think it's unthinkable that we would have freed slaves if it wasn't for Christianity?
No. So I'm not trying to do a counterfactual. I'm not trying to say that without Christianity we would have gotten to here. Okay, I find it's more people on the other side of things, such as Alex O'Connor or yourself, who are wanting to say we would have gotten to here because Enlightenment ideals, which somehow have no, Christianity is not contributed to, somehow Enlightenment ideals would have gotten us to here anyway. That to me is the untestable hypothesis. Okay. That to me
I think
is unlikely.
I think that you are. Because if you were to say that it is unthinkable for something to have occurred without Christianity, what is baked into that is the assumption that it could not happen. So
he's not wrong. He's not wrong. And he claimed that it's unthinkable to think that we would have done all of this stuff without Christianity. Again, he's basically saying, well, there's no counterfactual. You've just drawn on that a counterfactual wouldn't have happened, that you don't have. Like maybe we would have gotten to this point in science, in our moral standards without Christianity. He's the one that's baked it in.
No doubt. And the fact that we burned scientists like Bruno, not only would we have gotten to that point, we would have far surpassed it.
I believe
that. Because you get a lot further when you don't kill your scientists.
Yes, I believe that. I do believe that. But, you know, I can't say I know that for a fact because, again, there's no counterfactual. We're not in that world. I can't say that for sure, right? We may have had a whole bunch of people create a nuclear weapon earlier and then use it kind of thing. I don't know. We can't say for sure, but I think it is incredibly likely we would have advanced further if religion wasn't pushing back against scientific findings so often. And if you don't believe me that religion pushes back against scientific findings so often, I will direct you to the Ark encounter. Please. Go and have a look, see people riding around on dinosaurs, and then come back and tell me I'm wrong.
Right. And also, friendly reminder, your friend and mine, Joe the Kentucky Atheist, is working with Tri-State Free Thinkers on this year's Ark Encounter protest. It's the 10th anniversary. Check out Joe's channel, The Kentucky Atheist, to find out more information.
There you go. Good one, Joe. Awesome. Yep. But, you know, and this kind of religiosity is also why there's like a measles epidemic breaking out as well.
At the Ark Encounter.
At the Ark Encounter.
Actually,
in the form that we've received it.
See, that's a weaker claim.
It might be a weaker claim than what you have understood.
So we wouldn't have the society
saying,
that we would have today because it would have a slightly different church. That's not a profound claim. Whereas if you're saying we wouldn't have our society today if it wasn't for the churches.
When did I say we would have? Is this a function of your straw manning me?
No, he's not. Because you said it's unthinkable we would have gotten to the point we are today without Christianity. And he's saying, yeah, it might not be exactly the same, but as far as science and morality is concerned, it has to be necessary for us to get to those points. And I don't think that Christianity is required to get to the same points in science and morality. In fact, as Ember pointed out,
done it, you know?
Yes.
It's clearly not required. It's demonstrably not required. What does seem to be required, based on what we can gather from the limited amount of data we have available, is that you need stability. You need a period of no wars so people can do the researches and things.
Christianity, famously responsible for a lot of wars.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a function of me rowing back.
No, this is a function of me trying to understand what you're saying.
Okay, well, let's understand. So there would be all sorts of ways of studying the world, and
Okay, can I just point out that Stephen's actually making notes? He's got a book with him, and he's making notes as he goes, and this is why he can jump on these things. Well, I don't think Glen is, which is why he's all over the place, right? He is all over the shop. Just, you know, on this topic, he's hedging here, he's dodging there, he's saying, well, let's go to the meta ethics. Or I think he would do a lot better if he made some notes to just organize his thoughts. I don't know all debaters. I have trouble getting a systematic train of thought if I can't note down what's being said. And I love that Stephen's doing that. I really do.
Have been all sorts of ways of studying the world, around the world and down through history. Right? But the form in which we consider science in the modern day, the road that we've taken has gone right through Christian heartlands, and we've been utterly marked by that. And the destination that we have arrived at is unthinkable without that Christian weathering, right?
See, this is just silly.
So, two things.
Like, you know, the man who lives in the British Isles, right? So, like, his ancestry goes through Germany, the Anglos and the Saxons and so forth.
Right.
And so you cannot have an English civilization without the heathens. You know, you need Odin and Thor and whatnot. And so clearly that's a true religion that doesn't poison everything. There was nothing wrong with the heathen faith, even though the church needed to say there was to wipe them out. But never mind that, because that's what led to the inevitable result. This is the hindsight view. The what happened in history must have been inevitable because we got to today.
Right.
No.
No. No.
It's so stupid. It hurts my
But
head.
it's very specific to certain things like morality and scientific understanding. And Stephen's right that by saying it's unthinkable to get to the points we are in those areas today without Christianity, you are necessarily saying that if Christianity wasn't around, we wouldn't have got to those points. I don't understand why Glen doesn't understand this. He's basically saying it's unthinkable we would have gotten here if Christianity wasn't. That's what he's saying. He's saying if Christianity wasn't around, we wouldn't have got here. And like these superficial details, like, you know, was there a cross on the church or was it a spire on the church? Like, that is irrelevant. Irrelevant. Mm-hmm. It's would we have gotten to a analogous moral system and an analogous system of a level of science? Yeah, probably. I mean, we can't say for sure. There is no counterfactual, but it is Glen that is basically drawing on the counterfactual by saying it's unthinkable without Christianity we would have gotten to this point. He's the one drawing on the counterfactual.
In our society right now, who are the people that are fighting most against science? Who, for instance, is really not a fan of evolution? They're trying to ban it in schools.
I don't know, Muslims?
Ruh-roh.
And
Come on. Okay, so this is how I know Glen is being dishonest. Because, like, even Christians know that it is Christians, other Christians, like the fundamentalist right-wing Christians, that is trying to ban evolution in schools, and they're the main proponents. This does not make Glen look good. Right, Glen's a Catholic, right? He's Catholic?
Anglican.
He's Anglican. Well, they've just accepted it. The Catholic Church has just accepted it, and they're definitely, you know, not as progressive as Anglican. You know, he's not wrong that Muslims are opposing, but the main opposition comes from Christians. But of course, it makes his side look weaker, so he just outright, flat out lies, and he knows that. Like, you know, come on, Glen, this doesn't make you look good, my guy. To the audience is going to go, well, it's these, you know, evangelicals that are doing it. Yeah, my guy, come on.
Christians, though. And that's always the final fallback position. Whenever you get nailed down by this person is doing this horrible thing specifically and explicitly in the name of Jesus, well, he's not a real Christian, though.
Well, will he go there? Will he go there? I don't think he will. I don't think he will. Because if he could go to that place, he wouldn't have thrown Muslims under the bus, right? He wouldn't have gone, oh, it's all the Muslims trying to stop evolution. It's got nothing to do with Christianity. Come on now. Like, seriously, how dishonest can you get? No, this is, the longer this goes on, the more I think Glen is being disingenuous, at least. So willfully ignorant about stuff. It's not cool, my guy. Everybody knows it's evangelicals. Your audience knows it's evangelicals. Come on, man. What are you talking about? They literally pour millions and millions of dollars into it. Come on. Oh, boy.
Muslims and Christians.
Some Christians.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Because some Muslims and some Christians.
Who is it that imprisoned Galileo, partly because of what he had to say about a scientific theory?
Yeah.
Who is it that
the greatest patron of the scientific method up until that moment? That's who.
Yes, and who? Because they owned all the resources.
Right, and they employed them in this novel thing that has been for the betterment of society. Thank you, religion. So religion doesn't poison everything.
And as soon as it contradicted their doctrines...
really true. Like, in certain cases, it was. Like, Tycho Brahe, for example, independently wealthy, but got the sponsorship of the Empire of Austria-Hungary as the royal astronomer, handed it down to Kepler. Kepler, not exactly a poor guy by that point in his life, but not exactly a rich guy either. He needed the patronage of the empire. But was it the patronage of the church through the empire? Similar thing with Italy, like the whole Renaissance thing, right? Like, all these great artists had patrons. They made a bunch of religious stuff, but it's because that's what the patrons wanted, because the patrons wanted to have cool art to give to the church as a
Yep.
means of currying favor with the church. It
Yes.
wasn't because the church was the patron, you
And-
know?
Yeah, and there's sort of this thing of, well, the church gives all this money, it's very generous kind of thing, and it's like, yeah, but the church, unlike other volunteer organizations, right? You get your charities and things. The charity can't go to its members and say, hey, we're taking 10% of your income, right? Which the church does and can do, or else they will throw you out. Now, and especially in that time, it wasn't really something that was seen as voluntary. You had to show that you had no money. So he's right. The people with the money were the churches. Because aside from providing, a great cathedral or something, what does the church have to spend money on? It's not like they're baking bread or something and have to buy the wheat. Like, it is just they take 10% of your income. And all they've got to do is support one guy who is pretty good with words standing up there giving a sermon every Sunday. Like, seriously, they have a lot of cash to spend. So, yeah, it's not surprising that they put a lot of money into that stuff because they took a lot of money in. In fact, the same is true to this day, really.
Oh yeah, the Vatican has one of the best observatories, astronomical observatories in the world, owned by the church because they have the money.
Do you know what their telescope was named? It drives the evangelicals nuts.
What?
Lucifer. Because it means like light bringer.
Yeah, it does.
And the evangelicals lost their minds.
I mean, they've kind of been leaning into that for a while. I don't know if it's trolling the evangelicals or what the deal is, but like Chris Mallard a year or two ago made a big deal out of the Vatican came out with new mascots, and they're like cartoon children and whatnot. And one of them is Lucy, short for Lucifer, and she's a blue-haired girl.
Oh, apparently it might be a false rumor.
Oh, the telescope is named that?
Oh, it's not called Lucifer. Yeah, apparently it might be a false rumor. Oh, it's the Lucy telescope, Luci. So apparently it's
It's just us atheists who are saying it's Lucifer.
Oh, it does
or
not have
possibly
it has
the
a telescope.
evangelicals.
No, the evangelicals. I heard it from an evangelical, so they're definitely saying that.
They're just spinning it. They're mischaracterizing it.
Yeah, so it's on the same mountain as the Lucy telescope.
Right. The luminiferous aether comes to mind, right? Like
right.
Lumi, Loony, Lucy, all these things are like light related ish. I really should have taken that in high school, but I speak what I speak. That's what I got for now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Who knew an evangelical could be wrong? I never thought it before. Wow, that's incredible. It's one for the books, Ember. That's where I got it. But yeah, apparently it's not the same. Okay, that's cool.
They burnt the people.
Oh, okay. Oh, what are your views on Galileo? Because, I mean, essentially Galileo did not have proof for his heliocentrism, okay?
Yes.
Yeah, but, wow! Okay, it doesn't matter whether he had proof or not. It's that if a scientist postulates some alternative proposition or something, you shouldn't imprison him for it. Because it's heresy. Like, he's sitting here defending heresy laws.
Uh-huh.
What are you doing?
And he did, though. Because, like, okay, his first big thing was he saw the moons going around Jupiter. And remember, a key element of geocentrism is everything orbits the Earth. That was church doctrine. He got in trouble for noticing Jupiter's moons orbit Jupiter, not the Earth. That's heresy because it questions the doctrine of geocentrism, which is why these kinds of dogmas are extremely stupid and harmful. So that doesn't necessarily demonstrate heliocentrism, but it does demonstrate that the church flavor of geocentrism is definitely false. The church is wrong, and that's the bigger issue than the Earth going around the sun in the context of what Galileo experienced. But he did have evidence of heliocentrism in that he was able to show by the crescent shapes of the planets as they moved around the sun that they're moving around the sun. And also he was able to get, I don't believe it was conclusive proof, not for, a few more centuries, but he was able to show evidence of parallax in what we now know to be nearby stars.
Well, I guess no, that's a really good point. I totally get it. He, him saying he didn't have proof, he didn't have some sort of absolute proof, but he had good evidence for it. But at the same time, I think it's irrelevant. Like, even if a scientist tries to publish something that's been taken just out of his ass, like he's just pulled some stuff out of his ass and put it down in a book, I still don't think we should imprison the guy and then demand that he rewrite his work to be in alignment with what the church says, because that's what they did. And Galileo famously made a correction and said, oh yes, I was wrong, and then continued to expound his theory in private, to other scientists, but the church was basically like, no, you can't tell us that the church is wrong. That would be bad. You can't.
Blasphemy, according to them. The church cannot be right. The whole infallibility thing, that's why the Protestant Reformation was such a big deal, because there's fucking holy dudes saying the church was wrong. They're not infallible. It turns out the guy saying, I will never lie to you, lied to you.
Yeah.
Shock.
But he said he'd never lie to me. God, sounds like Trump, really, doesn't it? Turns out the guy that said that he never lies a lot.
Weird.
Yeah.
And the church foolishly picked a side on a scientific debate. But they actually picked the side that was on the side of science.
Okay. Do you see how he minimizes any atrocity done by the church? Oh, it's just a stain, on the church. Or, they foolishly just picked a side when they probably shouldn't have done that. This is not abnormal behavior for the church. Like, it is not abnormal behavior at all. Like, they just happened to pick the wrong side on slavery. They just happened to pick the wrong side on gay rights. They just happened to pick the wrong side on, the AIDS epidemic. They just happened to pick the wrong, and the list goes on and on and on.
Like they should get more things right by chance. So maybe there is something to this direct line to God business. They're not just getting the wrong answer too often for it to be real. They're getting the wrong answer so often, there has to be a supernatural influence steering them towards evil actively, perhaps.
Maybe. Or they're just assholes. That's the other possibility. Sometimes it's not super... Sometimes it's not supernatural. Sometimes you're just a prick.
Yes. The people who seek power are people who seek power. They tend to be assholes because they seek power.
The consensus at the moment they proved to be wrong, and so that's very regrettable that the church picked a side. And it's doubly regrettable because they picked the wrong side. But what they picked, the side that they picked, was the side that seemed to have the better data and have the better evidence. We all now.
The Bible versus a look through my telescope.
Right. They didn't have any evidence and data for this. They just read the Bible and went, yeah, God made Earth as the primary, so everything goes around the Earth. It's not, that is not evidence and data. That's a claim. Mm-hmm. Glen, what are you doing?
Know that Galileo was right, okay, because the data after the fact vindicated him. The church should never have, put him through the Inquisition and detained him like they did. That is...
Yeah, but all the other people put through the Inquisition is perfectly fine, right? What about all the other people?
Mark?
I forgot.
It's channeling the love and the hope. The torture, it's love. It's loving torture. Yes.
but this is the sort of, problem with this sort of soft language about these mistakes. Like, the Inquisition is responsible for the deaths of probably 100,000 people. And he's like, oh, it was unfortunate they took a side on science and did this thing. It's unfortunate that the Inquisition put this guy in jail. My guy, that's not unfortunate. That was by design. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Wow.
The stain on the conscience of the church, but thank God for consciences, thank God for sacred ideals that can be violated and pushed against. They have transgressed some sacred ideals. The people you should really fear are the ones who say there are no sacred ideals, just trust us. They are the people who, through French Revolution, through Russian Revolution, through Stalin, through Hitler, through Mao, through Pol Pot, those who are irreligious have brought about the greatest levels of coercion.
This is just
now
too
it's too
quick.
quick. It's only the atheists are doing the evil things. So it's. I mean, if he tried to parlay this into saying you can't say religion poisons all things when the same poison is evident in non-religious movements, so it's just a human thing, then he might have something. But that's not where he's going. But also, it's not a matter of sacred doctrine. Trust me, bro. You can like show people why they should believe you. You don't have to do either of those.
Yeah, I think this sort of whole thing of atheism poisons everything. Well, I don't think atheism has any tenets or any kind of propositions besides that a God doesn't exist. And I think that sort of, and this is the conflation that they want to make. They want to say, oh, secularism necessarily leads to Pol Pot and to all of these horrible things, but they weren't just atheists. They were dictators and totalitarianists. They had more to them than just being atheist, because atheism doesn't have any moral system whatsoever. It really doesn't provide any morals at all. It's not what it's for. It's simply the position on one proposition: does a God exist? So sort of saying, hey, this guy was an atheist and they were absolutely horrible. And it's like, yeah, there's some horrible atheists out there. Why do I care? Like that's absolutely granted, sure. But that doesn't mean that religion suddenly doesn't poison everything because there's some horrible atheists out there. So he's just trying to dodge the entire question, the entire debate. Does religion poison everything? Well, this other, the communism poisons everything. Okay.
Everything. All communism. Yep.
Sure. Just for the sake of argument, right? I'm not taking this thing. I'm just for the sake of argument. Sure, communism poisons everything. So how does that make Christianity not poison everything? And it's not even, the subject isn't even Christianity, it's religion poisons everything. So, I would probably go to, well, does Islam poison everything? And, wait for Glen to tie himself into knots, wanting to agree with that statement, but not actually agree with that statement.
Inquisition.
Glen, I think I actually have a way to really see just how testable your hypothesis is. Can you name for me one morally good thing in our society that is not a derivative in any way of Christianity?
Oh, I think the ways in which non-Christian cultures come over to...
That's a good question. Is there anything in our society which is a good thing that is not derived from Christianity? I think he's probably got something in mind, but I'm trying to think if there's something that I think. Have a think about it. I'm going to have a think as well, but I'm also going to read out the super chat from Ninjester, being a ninja again with a ninja super chat for $5 US. Which church condemned Joan of Arc again, Glen? Should we make a list and divide it by year? I bet the named victim of the church since 1 AD per year is greater than 5. Yeah, probably, yeah. Absolutely. yeah, that was the Anglican Church because she was French. Was it Anglican Church of England? Because the French was not the English were not happy about the French.
No, that was before Henry VIII broke away.
Oh,
and
yeah.
formed the Anglican Church, wasn't it? So it'd have to be Catholic.
Right,
Joan
right.
of Arc sentenced by who?
Roman Catholic by a tribunal. Yep. Okay. Yeah, you're right, because that
in Rhône, France, by the Bishop of Bevis. What a butthead!
Bishop of Bevis. Sounds like a pretty
It's
funny guy, though.
but
Yeah, I know. Catholic Church. Yep, you're right. No, my bad. Yeah, I don't know, but like, okay, so one thing that atheists that does not derive from Christianity, I think definitely the equality of gay people, definitely the equality of women. I'm just throwing some things out here, what it could possibly be. What do you think?
Oh, there's agriculture. Like, how far back do you want to go?
Is that moral? Is that moral?
Well, I mean, it's. I don't really do morals, as you know. It's more outcomes based. Like having control of your own food is better for you, so it is a good.
Yeah.
It's good for your society. It's et cetera, et cetera. But like, I'd phrase it a slightly different way. I like the way Stephen presented it because it's something of a challenge for Glen. But
yeah.
I think of it more like, is there anything good that is Christian derived that isn't derived, like Christianity didn't take it from pre-existing cultures, like the way you're saying Christianity contributed everything. Every single piece of Christianity is filched. It has its hands in the pockets of pre-existing cultures, mostly Judaism, but
well, yeah, absolutely. But I think that's how culture works. Like, we don't just come into a culture in a vacuum, you know, like it's like sort of saying, hey, these languages just appeared out of nowhere kind of thing. Of course, that's not how it works. Is previous cultures influence the next one, you know, and then we do something absolutely horrendous and go, oh, that was a bad idea. Let's not do that again. And then probably proceed to do it again. But, you know, the thought is there. But, you know, it's sort of like he's sort of saying, well, Christianity is responsible for these because it, you know, came before these current moral values. And it's like, yeah, but so did a lot. Like, that is how culture works. We don't just, you know, have a country that forms and it just forms out of nowhere with no previous influence. It is just a long chain of previous things. But I think that sort of freedom of religion, how about that one? Right? Being able to worship any god or any religion, like that really secular concept. I would say that is antithetical to Christianity. Even to the teaching of Jesus in the New Testament, who sort of says you have to worship God to get into heaven kind of thing. You know, Jesus never said, hey, you can be in another religion and it's totally fine. I'd probably go for that. Anyway, let's see what he says.
The West and deal with family, for instance. Wonderful contributions to our incredibly selfish, entitled, incurved, Western privileged attitudes. And I think in so many ways, non-Christian and anti-Christian people can teach the post-Christian West all sorts of things that are far superior to the place that we've gotten to in the year of our Lord 2026. Absolutely.
So it's anti-Christian to be big on family and looking after your loved ones?
No, that's I think, but there are people who would not at all subscribe to Christianity who can teach a post-Christian West about
So there's the compassion.
family.
There's the compassion that I was mentioning. You're doing it without assuming your thesis, which means that it exists without your religion. The question then is whether or not your religion poisons it.
So my thesis is not that Christianity is uniquely the source of good in the world at all. But the thesis that you need to defend is that religion poisons everything. Okay? And it seems to me like you've conceded the debate about 5 or 6 times already.
Rather, what I pointed out is that you can't ground good, and so neither will I.
God is love. It's the most
what I've done is
profound
he's
grounding
put
of goodness that there could possibly be.
When God
Grounding,
commanded,
it's a
he executed.
platitude.
Yeah, that's not grounding, my guy. And even if you somehow want to say that love is morality, you don't have a moral system. It's basically moral emotivism. If you love something, then it is moral. Like, I don't, there's people that love hurting animals. I don't see that as moral. It's not a system. It's basically just a, I don't know. It's not. It's weird. It's weird is what it is. I'm trying to think of what I mean. It's almost like he's trying to make it a tautology, like God is love and love is God, and that's it. That's not a moral system.
Yeah, that's just a thing. It's weird.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Of those little boys, right? You have the Israelites running in, grabbing these little boys and smashing their skulls against rocks.
Well, that is...
Was that a good...
That is not, that is not what's happening.
And
okay, that is not what...
Okay, no, Glen has a point here, and that's a really bad example because that was in Psalms, I believe, and it's sort of... So it's during the exile when the Israelites were exiled to Babylon, and they're kind of writing... sort of for the age, what are punk rock protest songs, basically. Look, it's all poetry, and it's not necessarily that they were doing it. It's just that is, it's blessed is he who will smash his enemy's skull. They're really just expressing pure rage against the Babylonians. So Glen does have a point that isn't something, but you cannot put the the slaughter of the Amalekites and things like that into that same category, right? Like, that's not in the same category. But he does have a point that that's not actually a documented of what happened. But it still is not, good. It's not good to say, hey, we're so mad at these people that we're going to be blessed if we, brain their children. Like, that's not a good thing for the good book to have in it. Oh, I love that. Yes, it's a pre-Jewish Quentin Tarantino film. Yes, that's exactly right. Yes. Yep. But, the exile to Babylon, if your entire people are basically thrown out of your country and made to live as slaves in another, you'll probably be pretty angry. I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying they were really mad at the time. Why God chose that to put in his book is anybody's guess. But, hey, he works in mysterious ways, right?
Was happening, and
we have about 15 minutes left, guys.
Okay.
Just so you know. Thank you.
15. Okay. That was militaristic hyperbole in terms of that language, and it's part of a story in which the cultures. Now, you might not believe this about the cultures. You might not believe that the conquest of Canaan ever happened. You're very free to believe that. Sure,
you do.
It's written in the book. Let's go with this, right?
But why are you being vague? Like, do you believe the conquest happened or not?
I said sure. It's written in the book. Let's go with it. Sure. Yes. Right.
Okay.
So
Awfully
that's
waffly
weird
about that.
Well, but the reason why he's waffly is because earlier he sort of said, and I'm feeling the same thing. Obviously, Stephen's confused, and so am I, because he said that it was poetic language, which sort of suggests that it didn't actually happen. But now he's saying, yes, it did happen? Or is he trying to say it did happen, but, where they wrote down, hey, we slaughtered the women and children and took the young unwed virgin girls back to serve us, like he's saying, no, that didn't happen. Instead, they gave out candy and presents. Like, I don't know why you would, in your book, like why you would invade another land, and then when you actually do nice things and liberate the people, you would write that you absolutely slaughtered them, kind of. What are we talking? What?
It's the humility. It's Christian humility. Instead of bragging to our children about all the wonderful things we did for the Canaanites, we're not going to talk about that. In fact, we're going to go all the way to the other end of the spectrum. We're going to tell our descendants how awful we were and the horrible things we did, specifically so that they glorify God and not us. Aha!
It's weird. So he's saying that it happened, but it didn't happen in the way that ancient battles kind of, when they conquered another civilization, they kind of did, right? Like, that is, we know that that's the kind of thing that ancient civilizations did. They didn't just go into a place and say, hey, now we've got your land, we don't like you, but live here as equal. No. Generally, a lot of slaughtering happened. So
sort of like is happening right now, but never mind that.
Sort of. Yeah. Wow.
Within the story, but if we're happy to be within the story, here is a culture that for 400 years has prosecuted obscene levels of violence, child burning levels of violence, and what is presented within the book. And you don't have to go within the book, but I'm just telling you how a Christian thinks about this.
Which culture? Because I know.
I think he's talking about the other Canaan tribes.
But what he's actually saying is that both cultures have prosecuted, whatever. Both cultures are filled with violence, obscene levels of violence. Yes, he is correct. They both were, yes.
But this is the weird thing with that apologetic, as you know. But those other tribes of Canaan were the evil tribes. It's sort of like it's a weird apologetic, because it's kind of like, yeah, but they were sacrificing children. Oh, so instead of stopping them from sacrificing children, you go in and slaughter all of them, including the children, the male children, and take away the girls that had not been touched by. How is that better exactly? In order to stop them from doing evil things, let's unalive all of them.
Mm-hmm. We'll prevent the child sacrifice by sacrificing all the children.
All the children,
then there won't be any more of them.
Then the problem will be completely stopped. Well, you're not wrong. You will stop the problem. I'm not sure it's the best solution. That's like saying, in order to end child suffering, just unalive every single child. No more suffering. Well, you're not wrong. It's horrific and evil, but you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Within the book, it is
solution.
Mm-hmm.
If you cut the baby in half, you don't have to worry about it anymore, do you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is the other cultures that are the infanticidal ones. And it is the Israelites who are going in to prosecute what, within religious terms, within the Bible's terms, is a just war. What puts the lump in all our throats, including Christians, is that it is Israelite soldiers themselves who are having to prosecute that justice. Now, we don't read of picking up boys and girls and all that. We read only of combatants or kings.
I don't know. It's tangent side topics. I just can't help myself sometimes. Like,
go
is
for it,
murdering children who have done no wrong justice? Because if that's your idea of justice, I don't think you understand what justice means.
I want to know what the animals did, because they killed all of the animals in one instance as well. They were told to kill all the animals. Wasn't it like they sent them out to kill all the animals and then they didn't kill everybody, so they were sent back in to do it? Like, Moses was really mad because God said to slaughter everything, basically.
It was Joshua, whoever the fuck the next prophet was, but yeah, they were like, no, did I stutter? I said, I mean, God said kill everything, so kill everything. Go do it right. Stop with this.
I think it was the Amalekites. I think. Yeah. Okay. So 1 Samuel 15. God instructs King Saul, destroy the Amalekites completely. It says, do not spare them. Put to death the men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys.
Those camels, they know what they did.
Yeah, so it was the Amalekites, yeah. So not only does it say specifically kill the people and everything in the land, it specifically names the infants. Like, what did the babies do? But it was a great blessing. for these children to be sent to heaven ahead of their time. Thanks, William Lane Craig. That is horrific.
Dying in the book of Joshua. That's what we read. And I think archaeological evidence would show that these are military installations that are being fought against. The other thing to say...
Sorry, are these military installations manned by infants?
Right. It's God's justice against the military installations with the toddler defense force.
Yes. Yeah, they were coming at us with rattles and bibs. We had to do something. Never fight a soldier in a nappy. I'll tell you that right now. It's a bad time. It's a bad time. Wow.
Is that what we're talking about here is part of a narrative in which there is a David going up against a Goliath, and the Goliath is the Canaanites. The Goliath are the Canaanites who are prosecuting their own kind of infanticidal practices, and it is the Jews who are going up as these total minnows. They are the David, and they're...
I'm not sure historians and archaeologists will agree with you on that one. As far as I know, the Israelites were probably the biggest tribe in the area, as far as I knew. I would have to check that. If Kip or would Josh know that? I don't think that's the case. That the Israelites were the smaller tribe. I really don't think so.
I mean, the Israelites weren't like a tribe. They were like 12 tribes, and according if any of the numbers are remotely accurate, there were more of them than the most populated city in the world at the time.
How so?
Because like I can't even remember what the most populated city in the world at the time was, but one of the books, is it Numbers? Is it in one of the places where they do the census of, like, you know, the sons of Yoder had 1.2 million men, and the sons of Jehoshaphat had 3.6 million men. Like there was a ridiculous amount of dudes, you know?
Right. Okay.
Tactics even are about subverting the violence narratives of the ancient Near East. And I think to go to Joshua and say how terrible these Israelites are prosecuting this so-called justice against an evil nation, it would be a bit like watching Star Wars Episode 4 and Luke, delivers the shot, blows up the Death Star. It would be like going into Star Wars and seeing that as the very first thing and saying, oh my goodness, you monster Luke Skywalker, how dare you? It fits into a much broader narrative, and that broader narrative...
Why are you comparing a tribe of people in the Bronze Age to stormtroopers on the Death Star?
It's awfully odd. And in fact, there's literally a better example in the same movie. It's
right.
Here's Darth Vader with his new battle station. Princess Leia, give me what I want, or you have done a great evil according to my master. And your people will be punished for this great evil I have been told to punish from on high. And she does not. And so he invokes the divine punishment, which is to fire the battle station at her planet of Alderaan.
Right. Where there is civilians, basically. 'Cause don't forget, it is termed as a battle station, right? It is a military... Like, in all of the shots, you don't see, like, bring your daughter to work day kind of thing. I don't know if the Death Star had any residential areas kind of thing. But, like, they were destroying it because it was a battle station capable of wiping out... Like, it's just... This is so stupid. This is the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah. He's so deep into... This is the issue with these guys who want to waffle on where they stand about the Bible, because when they get asked specifically about it, they're just making shit up on the fly. Like, this is the most amateur hour apologetics. He's literally got Star Wars reversed.
Yeah. And Kip says it's fiction. Well, I know, but if you take it as like an internal critique, Israelites in place stories are depicted as an overwhelming force. In the story of Balaam, King Balak complains that the Israelites are so numerous they cover every inch of the ground. Yeah, so I think that the idea that the Israelites are the tiny force is a bit ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, thanks, Kip. I should just assume everything he says is bullshit until further notice, kind of thing. That's what I should do.
It runs that way, yes.
Yeah.
Culminates in Christ and in him crucified, the one who takes the violence into himself, rises up again and says, those who live by the sword will die by the sword. Now the church has absolutely no right. I have no right to take that justice into my hands, okay? So Christians ought not ever to prosecute the justice of the Lord in any kind of violent way, shape, or form. And whenever we have done that, we have been egregiously sinful. What I don't hear from you, Stephen, is...
Wait, what? Christians should never, carry out the law? I don't... Well, for a start, I was watching, I did the thing on Brian Holdsworth, the fundamentalist fails kind of thing, and it's actually horrific, even, because people really attacked me on that one. Some Christians came onto my comments sort of saying, hey, he's a really nice guy and he's one of the more moderate ones. But I did notice that while looking for, through his collection, that he had one part saying, oh, why don't the Christians do another crusade? And his answer was basically, well, we're not the ones in charge. And it's like, of all the reasons you should not do another crusade, just basically saying, well, we're not the ones in charge, is horrific. It's basically going, yeah, we don't do a crusade because we don't have control over the military, which suggests that if you did, you would. And this is one of the more...
That baffles me.
Gentle, moderate ones, yeah.
Every Brian Holdsworth video, but every year or so I'll go look at one or two and see if there's anything worth doing a thing on.
Yeah.
A remnant of when I used to do pre-recorded videos. But I have yet to see a single video from that dude that didn't horrify me.
Right.
He's just monstrous on his sleeve, He's funny because he's such an absurdly sloppy thinker, but he's also a fucking monster.
Yeah.
Can I make some comments on that? There was quite a lot.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Okay, so, the narrative says in the Bible...
Okay, can I point out? He's taking notes, right? So this, really this was a sort of Gish gallop, okay? And Stephen let him gallop. And then he says, do you mind if I make some points because you made a lot of points? And he's forced to go, well, yeah, because I kind of did cover everything from poetry to the Death Star, right? Come on. Yeah, so fantastic stuff by Stephen. Really on the ball when it comes to addressing some of the more disreputable tactics in a debate. Fantastic stuff. Really impressed.
These people were wicked and they were doing bad things. For instance, they were practicing child sacrifice. So God sits there and goes, I've got a really good idea. They are murdering their children. That's bad. So I'm going to command my people to go into their village and murder their children.
Yeah, but that's not what's happened. Okay.
Yes, it is. Because what he says is you go in there to this wicked place.
Yes.
You don't just kill the adults that have done wicked things, do you? No, he says explicitly, take the little boys and kill them. And this is where it gets particularly gross. The little girls that have not slept with a man, take them for yourself. Does this sound like benevolence to you?
Yeah. Someone's asking for verses there.
What, for the exact verse?
Yeah. And the
in the conquest of Canaan?
And the little boys.
Someone is asking?
I think you're conflating
are we debating? Are we debating or are we answering to the audience? What do you mean someone is asking? You know damn well there are verses. What the exact verses are, that's not the point, is it, Glenn? You have to make the case that having your family killed and you being forced to be a sex slave is somehow a mercy compared to also being killed with your family.
Right.
You're stuck with that. Good luck.
Yes. So that was the Midianites where they had the children. It's in Numbers. I just looked it up. It's definitely Numbers. So that was Moses instructing his followers. The one that I was thinking wasn't Moses. Like I thought I was kind of mixing them up. That was King Saul in First Samuel. So that's in Numbers. What's a good heuristic may be that Numbers has the verse in that tells them how much in Numbers the spoils that they came back with, including girls that had not known the touch of a man. They counted it among the spoils. So let's go to Numbers, because I think this is really important. Numbers 31. And, you know, it's weird because, like, he's asking Stephen what verse that is, and Stephen's the atheist. Why aren't they asking the apologist? The theologian. You know what I mean? Like, and why can't they find the verse? I mean, they're in a church. Someone must have a Bible. They must.
You would think. I mean, Glen's got like 7 books next to him. No Bibles, though, I guess.
Okay, here we go. So this is Numbers 31, Vengeance on the Midianites. Moses, Eleazar, and the priest and all the leaders went and met outside the camp. Moses was angry with the officers of the army, the commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds who returned from the battle. Have you allowed all the women to live? He asked them. They were the ones who followed Balaam's advice and enticed the Israelites to be unfaithful to the Lord in the Peor incident, so that a plague struck the Lord's people. Now kill all the boys and kill every woman who has slept with a man, but save for yourselves every girl who has never slept with a man. Anyone who has killed somebody must purify. That's sort of irrelevant. Purify his garment. This is what's required by the law. Anything else that withstand fire must be put through the fire, and then it will be clean, but also will be purified. What cannot withstand fire must be put through that water. And then they sort of tally up what they got. The plunder from the spoils was 675,000 sheep, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 women who had never slept with a man.
Amazing. And let's not forget that after the 7 days or the 30 days or whatever the fuck it was, just because they kept them for themselves, well, you still needed to give like 1 out of every 500, was it? It's been a long time since I looked at this verse, but you had to take a portion of them and dump them in the fire for Yahweh to do the sniffy thing.
Yeah, that's the half share kind of thing. I think it sort of says 1 in 50 kind of thing, and gave
Something
them
like
to the
that.
Levites who are responsible for care of the Lord's tabernacle. So, you know, but the church got its cut. The church has to break off a bit of that cheddar, you know, which included people. Like, that was the spoils. They added up the spoil. Like, this is incredible that he does not know this. Like, it was listed among the spoils, the livestock and people were spoils. Think about that. They were spoils of war. They were possessions.
Sorry, do you think that's not in the Bible?
I think what you're conflating is a psalm that's talking about something else.
So you don't think that command?
Not a psalm. Not a psalm. Not a psalm, sir. No. No, it's in Numbers. The number of children you take for your tribe, because you won the battle and slaughtered everybody. Wow.
It's in the Bible.
So,
Yes or no?
you're conflating a psalm with what's happening in the conquest narratives. Okay, so what is going on there, I think, is militaristic hyperbole. Okay, and what you need to deal with is in that same period, there is all sorts of, you could call it genocidal activity. There's all sorts of militarism, there is all sorts of conquest that is going on at the same time. Israel is not adding to the religion of the ancient Near East, and they're not adding to the violence of the ancient Near East. So I don't know.
So you don't think the worst slavery rules that were put in is adding violence?
Well, you have to get...
Because you've already said that they are.
Let me
The reduction of women's rights, Glenn?
Sorry?
The reduction of women's rights?
What? So women's rights are in this as well.
No, I'm telling you,
women's rights are this pre-religious, obvious, self-evident truth.
No, you're switching the claim.
Your religion has poisoned.
The claim is whether or not it's worse is what you made. You do this every time. You make a definitive claim, I show you that you're wrong, and then you want to go into moral ethics.
Yeah, it's the Mott and Bailey. He's got the the Christianity hasn't done any of this stuff, and then when he points out these slavery rules, this thing is the worst of the area, he's going, yes, but it doesn't make it poison. It's like, no, that's your you've made these extravagant claims, and then you retreat to that Bailey going, no, that's not what I claimed. It's absolutely what you claimed, Glenn.
Right, and this pathetic waffling of, oh, well, every culture in the area at the time was doing the same or worse. So you agree that they were doing bad shit then? Okay, cool. Could you just honestly answer, or do you have to fuck around every damn time?
Can I just point out that every culture in the area had religion too?
What?
Yeah, and it was sort of a, very similar to the Israelite religion. Just saying. So on the charge that religion poisons everything, if you go, oh, but these other people, they were doing the same thing and were also religious, that does not help your case. Not in this debate, because it's not
fighting, as you've mentioned a few times. Glenn is fighting a different fight than the debate because he can't think around this big block in his brain called his faith. To him, everyone else doing evil things is fine, but Christianity has to be pristine.
Yep.
And it doesn't work.
No, okay. So if religion poisons...
It's such an obvious dodge.
Okay, let's get back to the title. If
And
religion
I should
poisons...
say, by the way, of the time, I don't know if you wanted a form.
Yeah. Should we give each other 4 minutes?
If you prefer that, I'm okay with that. Yeah, go for it.
Do you have a number? Say a number.
3 minutes each.
3 minutes each, great.
Okay.
So does that mean we should start that right now?
Probably with the time.
I would just... Okay, shall I just start?
Go ahead.
And I'll give you the last word. Okay.
Thank you very much.
So religion poisons everything is assuming, therefore, that you can unbake the cake of humanity and somehow separate the flour of religion and still be left with something recognizably human. And I don't think religion is like that. I don't think religion poisons everything. I do think religion pervades everything. And it even pervades this conversation such that the assumption that Stephen brings about, okay, slavery is obviously wrong. Why did it take religious people to teach us that? Gender equality is a must. Well, why does it take religious people to teach us that?
I'm not 100% sure that religious people taught us gender equality. No. And I think it's a very...
May have bring us back towards it, but every single regressive who's pushing against it, who's saying we need to repeal women's rights to vote, they're all doing it on religious grounds.
Right. And I might sort of proffer an opinion that the real people seeking women's rights were women. I don't think the religion had much to do with it. I think that women were seeking equal rights for women, and their religion didn't really have much to do with it.
Right. It's occasionally people who happen to have a religion help increase liberty, freedom, hope, etc. in the world. But that seems to be an incidental, not a causal factor. Whereas when people take it away, because remember, people started with gender equality. It wasn't until we started to develop laws and shit, religious, cultural traditions, all this sort of stuff, that all of a sudden women have to be oppressed because the Holy Book says so. We started with all these different ideas and concepts, like developing new technology, and then somebody comes along with a dogma saying, you shall not make weapons out of flint, for that is sinful. all of this shit gets imposed on us. We didn't start with it. So even if religion did directly take a hand in removing these restrictions and oppressions, they put them there in the first place.
Yep.
Nature does not teach you these things. Plato said, nature teaches you that, of course, the strong should rule over the weak. Of course, that is the case.
Well, no, that like no one think Plato was accurate when he said that it's natural that the strong should rule over the weak. Nobody thinks that is a thing anymore, because we have other stuff. Like, I think that consequences teach you how to act. I think the consequences of sort of starting unfounded wars and oppressing the weak is inevitably unrest and things that you don't like, that you really will not like. So I think that, it is, and I think that empathy has a lot to do with how you treat people as well. So I think he's just, I wouldn't go to Plato for an understanding of natural things. Plato had some weird ideas on what was natural and what wasn't. I wouldn't go to Plato for that.
So Plato didn't say that. One of Plato's characters in the Republic said that, to which the Socrates character said, but what about this? But what about this? But what about this? As Socrates does, until the person who said might makes right looked like a bloody idiot.
Right. Using the Socratic method.
If anything, Plato said the opposite of that. But thanks for playing, Glenn.
Wow, this guy, I swear, I believed him again. He's very convincing. I keep believing him on his bullshit. It's terrible.
He's confident in his wrongness.
Yeah, well.
Nature read in tooth and claw does not teach you that. Okay.
Nature read in tooth and claw. What the hell? That was a Christian guy that said that, and they were wrong. Okay, so nature read in tooth and claw. That was, I can't remember, but it was sort of, they thought that animals were, like, because they looked around afterwards, they thought they were embarrassed kind of thing, right? Like, they thought they were sort of, guilty when they looked around. We now know they're looking for things that would steal their prey.
Tennyson.
Right. But I don't like, seriously. I nobody thinks that humans are not we are social animals. We're not solitary hunter animals. So it's so wild. It's so wild what he's saying. It's just so misaligned with what evolution actually teaches.
A more atheistic telling of what the human person is says that humanity is apes. Hello, my fellow apes. Okay? And apes are not guilty of any crimes, even though they...
Well, not as apes. Simply being an ape doesn't make you guilty of something.
But look, apes will have a social order to them. And you might say, oh, that's wrong for humans. Sure, we're not chimpanzees. But they still will have structures within their troops that if an ape violates that, there will be consequences. And a lot of it isn't might makes right. A lot of it is, like for the bonobos, for instance, social stigmatization. The women are in charge in the bonobo society, and if a male does something wrong, they're going to have consequences. So you are 100% wrong. Wow. So he doesn't believe in evolution, obviously.
They perpetrate things like rape and theft and murder and war crimes. What is it that makes us think of those?
So do humans. So do humans, Glenn.
I don't think you can do war crimes without, like, wars. I mean, you can in, like, crimes against humanity sense, like the way the Trump administration is currently doing war crimes, even in the places we're not actively involved in a war. But, like, if you don't have these social contracts, I suppose, these agreements, these treaties, these understandings, these ideas, then you can't violate a law that isn't a law, you know?
Are you saying there's no chimpanzee Geneva Convention? Because I don't think that's right. I think there is somehow. I think somehow
they ought to get on that.
This is such a bad argument, like, seriously.
Those things as poison. Okay, what makes us think of those things as poison is a religious view of the human person, and that religious view of the human person is grounded in the being of God. It's grounded in the image of God.
Now it's just
grounded
preaching.
in the incarnation of God in Jesus Christ, and it has birthed this compassion revolution out there into the world. We are the beneficiaries of that thing, whether you call it a religion or not. I don't care. I do think it has done good in the world.
All right, so I've enjoyed this. I hope you have as well.
Yeah, I bet you have. He spanked him a couple of times. Look, I was gearing up for a pretty lukewarm debate from the introductions, but this has been really good, and I'm really impressed with Stephen Woodford. He has given him a couple of real spankings. That one about, like, why is all the churches and scientific institutions coming from Christianity? Where were the atheists? And he's like, they were dead. The Christians killed them. That was really good, Steve. Like, just a, spank, back in your place. Like, maybe we can have a, instead of a hitch slap, we can have a wood spank. I don't know. Look, I'm trying. All right, we'll find something.
The idea. Yes.
We'll workshop it. Don't worry, Steve. We'll workshop it. All good. But yeah, that was really good. Excellent, pithy comeback that really outlined the state of the world that Glen wants to ignore. That if you were an atheist, if you were a pagan, if you were a Wiccan, if you liked math too much and used weird symbols, you could be killed, sentenced, imprisoned, tortured, banished. All kinds of nasty stuff happened to you. So yeah, as he pointed out, people hid. They pretended to be a Christian because it was dangerous not to be. Hell, you could be a Christian like the Cathars and still get wiped out for not being the right kind of Christian. So, absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, fantastic from Stephen.
What I will say is this. What I did with slavery, and I showed you that the way that Christians argued against it, is to move away from the doctrines, away from what the Bible actually has to say, away from the revelations, and it to become more and more vague and more about the motif and character of Jesus. This is the tale. It's telling you what's going on. And you can do it with women's rights. You can do it with gay rights. In a couple of 100 years, maybe just 100 years, animal rights will be a big thing. And don't worry, they'll be making quotes to Genesis and telling you that all along it was Christian, it was just the long haul. That's the way that this game works.
Oh, I love what he's doing. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. If Christians are on the forefront of all of these issues, why does it take so long for the church to catch up? The Catholic Church has been in the tail end of the gay rights argument, the gay marriage argument, the AIDS argument, all of these things. Like, it's struggled to catch up. And it's more like there will be Christians that support progressive ideals, and the church disparages them, tells them they're wrong, fights against them, and then when they manage to convince people in the church and the church gets on board, the church will go, well, that was us all along. Look how great we are.
We led the way.
We led the way, right? So I love what he's doing here. It's a good framing of what actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that is my point. This is representing exactly what I'm saying. The more kinder the Christian, the less they've read. They're away from the Bible. And you can see it in the churches. You can talk to people about Leviticus. They don't want to talk about it. They want to talk about the character of Jesus. What is that? That is their humanity coming through, their compassion, their love, their decency, which gets poisoned by the doctrines. That is my point, and I don't think that you've at least convinced me, but I'm sure there may be others. And maybe we'll do it again sometime.
I would love that. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Woodford.
All right, everyone, please put your hands together for Stephen Woodford and Glen Scrivener.
Yeah, all right. I enjoyed that. Oh, yeah. I really enjoyed that, Ems. I really did. That was great. And I haven't seen a debate from, I don't think so. Maybe I've caught one or two from Woodford. I think he's fantastic, really good. And I love that I think this is really demonstrable to what I keep saying, that notes allow you to be more structured in the moment. And don't get me wrong, there's some people that are amazing about thinking about it, but I think it really does help. And considering how all over the place Glen was, to how sort of laser focused Stephen was with the issues. Like again and again, he said, yeah, this isn't about meta ethics. It doesn't matter. I think that his notes helped him really focus on what was important, and I really recommend it, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, it definitely helps. And even if you can't keep up with everything, like when someone's in a full-on gish gallop, you're still going to catch more with your notes than if you don't.
Yes. Yep. And hey, I appreciate Steve. I think he's doing a great job. I've liked some of the videos he brought out. That one on Schrodinger's douchebag was fantastic. I loved that. I thought it was novel and incredibly accurate to what goes on. I thought it was good. So I do recommend Stephen. I'm not, like, apparently had some bit of drama a while back, but changed his mind, which, hey, we all can be wrong about stuff, like that's
we all still learn, we all still grow. In fact, I've got a video I recorded with somebody a few weeks ago that's coming out in a few months, like towards the end of May or sometime in June or something. I'll keep y'all posted, but it's about the joy of being wrong.
Yeah, I'm wrong about a lot. I was wrong about a whole bunch. And I thought that, the Vatican had a telescope called Lucifer. That turns out I was wrong. 100% wrong. That's fine. That's all good. But I hope you've enjoyed this. Any final thoughts about the thing? I mean, I think I've just ranted on about Stephen enough because, but I think it is warranted. What are your thoughts? Do you have anything to add?
Well, a couple of things. One that comes to mind is that Stephen, because he practices debate review, he's better at it than average. Like most of the stuff on his channel is looking at other people's debates. And one that comes to mind is he did a video 7-8 months ago about losing an argument on purpose. Because even though you lose, you expose your opponent. And the person he had in mind was a clip from a Jubilee debate where a person was saying that the mechanism of Christian nationalism is to use democracy to destroy democracy, exploit a loophole, a backdoor in democracy to undermine the system. And his opponent basically just kept handing him the ammunition. He was just like, by all means, keep going,
Oh, was that Mehdi Hassan, maybe?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because he does a lot of that. He will just sort of say, hey, what, okay, sure, go for it. What's the outcome of it, kind of thing, and just let them dig their own graves. He's very good at that. But, I mean, I don't agree with everything he says, but he's definitely, I mean, he's obviously a journalist. And that really shows because he has got that thing of asking questions until they look incredibly dumb. However long that takes. But
tell me more.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah,
but
fantastic.
I mean, of course, naturally, there's studying philosophy and logic and learning the fallacies and a bunch of different things, taking notes that go into it. But also, just doing debates, reviewing debates, watching them. And when you watch them critically, like what we try to do here, we try to produce an entertaining show because we like hanging out with y'all, but we also try to look at the arguments where there's something to them, something to get our hooks into and say, how could we do this differently? Or in what way would this be more useful? Like be critical about it, not in saying, how did this guy screw up? Not criticism of him, but what would you do different? What would you do better? And Stephen spends a lot of time at that, which contributes a lot to his debate performances.
Right. And yeah, I mean, we try to be critical, especially being critical of your own side. Like, because we agree with most of the things that Stephen or anybody, any atheist says, most of the things, it's very easy to get into that thing of, oh, well, I won't criticize or say they could do this better because criticizing your own site is really good, because those pitfalls, you can avoid them. They're avoidable.
And every so often,
I'm just
we find out that
looking to
we've been
see.
wrong about something.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I enjoyed this. Left-handed Jedi for $2. I rant, therefore I am. Yes. It is argumento ad ergo sum. I don't. What is Latin for rant? English to Latin.
Argue.
Argumentum?
No, it's not rant. That's just to present
I know.
a series of propositions.
Okay, so the Latin for rant is rant.
Okay.
Apparently, according to Google Translate, the Latin for rant is rant.
So just rant ergo sum.
Rant ergo sum. I love it. Oh,
yeah.
I'll get a T-shirt made with that on it. Okay, absolutely. The other one I want is somebody said it in chat when I said ideas should not be owned, and they said ideas should not be owned TM, and I thought that's gold. That's great. I
love that.
That's fantastic. I gotta make a shirt of that.
How did I miss that? Oh goodness.
Oh, it wasn't in this stream. It was in another one, but I thought it was hilarious.
Okay.
So
I feel less bad then. I'm just like,
yeah. It was just a random stream.
Perfect criticism of capitalism. I love it.
Well, I mean, my favorite shirt is one that I got from merchandise from Lindsay Ellis, of all people, right? That was a shirt that says brand across it. And I just love it so much because it just says brand, as in, put your brand here. And it just reminds us of how much we view people to what brands they wear. If it said Adidas, we would, or Adidas, or however you want to pronounce it, we would have a different image of me as if it said,
Great value.
Calvin Klein or something, right? Like it just, we would have a different image. And so, what does that do? It's just fascinating to me, and I find it ironic. So, yeah. Being wrong is essential to learning. Absolutely. Yeah, I love it, Noise Ending. And, hey, I will change your name. I will forever address you as the Great Prophet Noise Ending. Ending, yep. The Great Prophet. The Great Noise Ending Prophet. Lol, it was Volforian, Vicanized DM. Yeah, that was fantastic. I loved it. So, yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Loved it. Anyway, that brings to a close. Ember, what have you got going on? Tell me, or else.
Oh, all sorts of goodies. I may or may not do a bonus show tomorrow. But there's always things going on. Most especially the weekday morning show, 11 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. At least for now. I've been changing things around, trying to get things to freaking work. Deep Dives Daily. This week we're finishing off Women's History Month with a couple of ladies that absolutely need to be talked about more. April 1st kind of fits in with that, but also kind of with April 1st. I won't spoil it, but you can see from the thumbnail that's already out there what we're going to be talking about. And then we're moving into April with Deaf History Month, and I forget what the hell I have for Friday. It's probably still history of biology, but I may have moved that to I don't know. Different topics every day. Deep Dives Daily. There's more. Find all my links at betterthanember.com, but also check out my pride flags. I got business cards for
oh, really?
Pride flags. Yeah, because I'm like, people are like, you need to bring your flags to live events. People will buy them in person. Online. Yeah. They have to pay shipping. They don't want to wait. If you have them there, they will pay slightly more to just have them in person. But there's, first of all, I can't get to all the event. You know what? I'm talking a lot. Suffice it to say, instead of carrying around a whole bunch of flags, I can have a couple of flags and hand people business cards. It's a compromise because just getting an inventory, they cost a bit. It adds up fast, is what I'm saying.
Yep.
And I'm very poor.
I get you. I hear you.
So, betterthanember.com.
Betterthanember.com. Betterthanember.com. It's better than a website.com. Thank you so much, everybody. This has been absolutely grand. I've had a fantastic time. Really good arguments from Woodford. Glen all over the place, but seeing him flail was kind of humorous. It was kind of funny. A little exasperating. Yeah, your powers come from watching Kip Davis. Well, that's a good thing, but hearing apologetic arguments burned into your brain, that's I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But hey, you know what helps with that? Good streams with a bit of laughter. It's how we release our frustration. I hope you're doing well. Be kind to yourself. As always, be kind to yourself. It's okay. We don't have to have all the answers. Don't necessitate you have to ground your morality in some kind. No, don't worry about it. Be kind. Just say, hey, I just have empathy and can see the consequences of my actions. That's all it requires. That's fine. But be kind to each other. And I will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.
To what new horizons can we look now? Where are tomorrow's opportunities? The frontiers of the future are not on any map. But now, what's ahead of us?